Immortal Cultivation. I run an internet cafe in another world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401, Power Overflow. In addition, Shadow also discovered something. He looked at Bai Luo with a more complicated look than before. At that moment, he found that Bai Luo's power was getting stronger and stronger, even overwhelming. Just when he looked heavy, the little rabbit walked in front of him. "What are you thinking about?" the little rabbit asked in a tentative tone. "Look," Shadow said, and then looked at Bai Luo with a meaningful look. Hearing this, the little rabbit also looked over in the direction of his gaze. The figure of Bai Luo was in their sight. The little rabbit observed for a while, and then said, "You also found that his power has become much stronger?" Shadow nodded. "Yes, I have observed for such a long time, and I just confirmed this point. His power is indeed much stronger." His words were a little heavy. "Then what are you going to do?" The little rabbit frowned slightly, trying to find out the other party's thoughts. Shadow thought for a moment, then whispered, "We must find a way to absorb his power." "You make sense." Bunny immediately affirmed the other party's idea, but hesitated for a moment. "It is not easy to absorb his power, and he will not let down his guard against us, so what should we do?" At this time, the two of them were faced with countless problems. It was also difficult to gain Bai Luo's trust and make him no longer wary of them. After hearing this, Shadow was also a little helpless. He shook his head slightly and then sighed deeply. "It is indeed worth thinking about." The two reacted in the same way, and both felt that this matter was a bit tricky. After thinking about it for about half a minute, Shadow's eyes flashed. His expression was seen by Bunny. Bunny moved forward with some curiosity, and then asked with expectation, "Have you thought of any good ideas?" Shadow's lips curled slightly, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. He slowly said, "We can compromise under the guise of compromise." "Under the guise of compromise?" Bunny's tone rose slightly, and a feeling of surprise flashed across his expression. "Yes, we just need to pretend to compromise. Bai Luo will relax his vigilance, and then we can take advantage of his inattention and absorb it by force," Shadow said very proudly. At this time, the smile on his face kept deepening, as if he had already grasped the victory. Listening to such a proposal, Xiao too thought quietly for a while. Not long after, she nodded vigorously and said with satisfaction, "Okay, then it's settled." Both of them thought this was a good idea, and they decided to do it. In this way, the two walked in front of Bai Luo one after another. They pretended to be perverse and said obedient words to Bai Luo. Bai Luo was a little surprised by the compromise of the two, but he didn't think much about it. Just when he relaxed his vigilance, Shadow and Xiao too exchanged glances and sent signals through their eyes. Now the timing is just right for the two of them, and they must firmly grasp this opportunity. So, the two took advantage of Bai Luo's back to them and directly used the devouring ability. In an instant, a dazzling light lingered around their bodies, and their body temperatures kept rising and burning. The two concentrated all their strength on their fingertips, and the fingers gently swept out, and the power burst out. The power formed a beam of light, which flew directly towards Bai Luo, very aggressive. Soon, the beam of light hit Bai Luo's body. He felt an extremely powerful attack force, which made his body stagger forward, and it took a lot of effort to stabilize. The devouring ability has taken effect in Bai Luo's body. He felt that his body was burned by the flames, and even felt a stinging sensation. Bai Luo realized it, and he gritted his teeth and clenched his fists to fight against this power. Shadow and the little rabbit were also not soft-hearted, constantly firing their abilities at him, constantly devouring the power in his body. The expression on Bai Luo's face became more and more ferocious and ugly. The veins on his arms bulged, and his body kept shaking because of excessive force. The two sides' power was competing, and their arrogance was extremely arrogant. Seeing this, the Shadow increased its devouring ability. The ability kept attacking Bai Luo's body, depriving him of the power in his body. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. Although he controlled it in time, the ability was too strong. He resisted for a long time, but still failed to protect all the power. He clearly felt that a force escaped from his body. Bai Luo's face suddenly sank, and the air pressure around his body was constantly decreasing. At this time, the girl on the other side had already seen Bai Luo, but the power shuttled too quickly, and she had no time to react. She could only watch the power rushing towards her. Then, she was knocked away. At this time, Bai Luo was already in a state where he could not control himself. Because the speed just now was too fast, he could not see the situation around him clearly. Although he felt that something was knocked away, his first reaction was to think that the other party was a small animal. So, he mourned in his heart. After a long stalemate, Bai Luo successfully controlled the leakage of his power, and at the same time, resisted the impact of Shadow and Bunny's power on him. In order to stabilize himself, he took a long breath, and balanced his breathing. Shadow and Bunny looked at each other, and a sense of panic flashed across their faces. The current situation is not as smooth as the two had thought before. The combined power of the two of them is not enough to absorb all the power in Bai Luo's body, which can be regarded as a failure. In addition, their tricks have been known by Bai Luo, and the situation is too embarrassing. The two froze in place, not daring to meet Bai Luo's gaze. At this time, Bao Yangchen rushed over. The situation just now is really too thrilling. How is your body? He asked Bai Luo with some concern. Bai Luo shook his head slightly, telling the other party that he was fine. Gao Yangchen frowned with a complicated expression, and then looked at Bunny and Shadow with a meaningful look. They are so bold that they dare to play tricks in front of you, he said indignantly. Bai Luo's face also slipped into dissatisfaction. How are you going to deal with them? Gao Yangchen asked. Bai Luo was silent for a moment. I don't think they will easily obey you. In this case, you might as well seal all their powers and see what tricks they can play, Gao Yangchen suggested. Bai Luo was moved and then agreed. Chapter 402, Helpless. Shadow and the little rabbit wanted to continue to do bad things in the back, but they didn't expect Bai Luo to seal them up like this. The little rabbit and the Shadow were naturally upset. They thought they could deal with Bai Luo well, but now they had no choice but to stay here. Because the things here have been dealt with, although Bai Luo was a little curious and puzzled about the role of the Shadow and the little rabbit. But now he had no way to learn more, so he could only control them first. Because it was Ao Yangchen who suggested Bai Luo to seal the Shadow and the little rabbit together, and now Bai Luo has done it. So Ao Yangchen nodded with satisfaction, and then looked at the sealed Shadow and the little rabbit. The scene changed, and he then began to say this to Bai Luo. Anyway, this is all we can do now. If we don't seal these two things well, it may affect our subsequent actions. It's not good to delay everyone's trip at that time. Hearing this, Bai Luo felt that there was a little truth, so he nodded to the other party. That's true. It won't matter if they seal it for a while. We just seal their power now. It just restricts their actions. There won't be any big side effects. As long as they don't do anything behind your back, it's fine. After saying this, Bai Luo looked at the Shadow and the rabbit whose power had been sealed. The two of them stared at him fiercely in tacit understanding. Bai Luo could only wave his hands helplessly. After all, they were the first to talk about morality. If they didn't do it, he couldn't seal them like this. So Bai Luo also said to them, don't blame me for this. You were the first to do it. Although I don't know how to deal with you now, I will definitely deal with you properly when the time comes. So I advise you not to say anything else behind your back, otherwise we won't be polite to you when the time comes. Because the power of the Shadow and the rabbit had been sealed. After hearing Bai Luo's words, although they were angry, they couldn't do anything. Then they didn't care about the things here anymore. Gao Yangchen smiled and then said to Bai Luo, then let's continue on our way. We have to hurry to the Holy Land. After all, these two things are no longer a threat to us. I don't think there will be any major problems later. We have to hurry to work. There are still many things waiting for us to do later. Bai Luo nodded. Okay, then let's hurry on our way. After all, we have spent a lot of time here these days, so we have to hurry up later. On the other side, Gao Yangzu heard their conversation and then had a worried expression on her face. Bai Luo also noticed it and then spoke. Is there something that has not been resolved? Why do I feel like you seem to be worried? Gao Yangzu smiled helplessly. In fact, she also felt that the best way to deal with it now was this way. But every time she saw their own shadows, Gao Yangzu still felt a little uneasy in her heart. However, Gao Yangzu also felt that there was no need to hide her worries from Bai Luo and the others, so she told them everything. Actually, I'm still worried about what's going on with these shadows. I wonder how those people will react when we go to the Holy Land. I think I'm still a little worried. The origins of these shadows are really suspicious. We don't have any clues at all. Bai Luo nodded in agreement. In fact, this was also one of his concerns, but there was no way to worry so much now. They simply didn't have the ability to solve this matter now. So at that time, he stood up and picked up his sword and then walked in front. After that, he looked at the shadows and the little rabbit whose power he had sealed. Then he turned around and said to Yangzu who was standing beside him, we really don't have the ability to deal with these things now, so we can only seal the power of the silver and the little rabbit first. As for when we go to the Holy Land, we will naturally explain to them. The elders must be more knowledgeable than us, and there may be a way to deal with these suddenly appearing shadows. Gao Yangzu sighed. In fact, she also knew that this was the only way. Then this is the only way now. We really have no way to deal with these shadows. Bai Luo nodded in agreement, and then others led a group of people to continue their journey. Then he did not forget to remind her, everyone, hurry up. After all, we have wasted too much time here. We have to leave here quickly. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar published this novel for the first time. Everyone knows that the most important thing for them now is to hurry to the Holy Land. And now there is no one behind the scenes, so the speed of the people is very fast, and it didn't take long for them to arrive at the Holy Land. Although several people did have some concerns in their hearts, there was no other way now. After returning to the Holy Land, Bai Luo led a group of people directly to the elders. On the way, they did meet some people they knew before. Everyone looked at their eyes. Most of them were very strange. After all, that shadow was very eye-catching. However, Bai Luo and his friends did not stay here for a long time, but just kept going to the elders. However, Bai Luo and his friends were lucky. At least the elders did not practice in seclusion this time. So Bai Luo also came to the elders under the leadership of some disciples. And the elder on the other side heard that Bai Luo and his friends were back, and then he came over very happily. But I didn't notice it when I was far away just now. Now I see the shadow behind them is very strange. How can this shadow be so obvious? It's like a living thing. So after seeing this situation, I couldn't help but take a few steps back, and then I looked at Bai Luo in front of me. Bai Luo also knew what the elder was worried about, so he quickly explained to the elder in front of him. To be honest, I came back this time to ask the elder to help us solve this matter. I believe you have also seen this strange shadow. We don't know what's going on. This situation has never happened before, but now it has happened, so I want to come back to ask for your help to see if there is any solution. After hearing what Bai Luo said, the elder couldn't help but frowned, because the situation in front of him was indeed very tricky, and he had rarely seen such a situation before. Chapter 403 Summoning the Ancestor. The elder frowned and thought for a while, then observed the shadows of each of them. Then the elder seemed to have thought of something, and then he touched his beard. When Bai Luo on the other side saw the elder's expression, his expression on his face couldn't help but relax a lot. According to his understanding of the elder's expression should mean that he knew something. At this point, Bai Luo asked directly, so you saw something early in the morning? What is this thing? Hearing the other party's words, the elder standing here first waved his hand, and then said his guess. Alas, actually I don't know this very well. This spell is very mysterious. I have only seen it in some classics before, and I'm not sure that I can solve this problem. At the same time, Gao Yangzu on the other side heard this answer, and the worry on her face was very obvious. Then there is no other way. The elder sighed, and then continued to explain. Of course there is a way, but I only read it in a book. I don't know if it will work, because this kind of magic is relatively rare. If you want to remove this kind of magic, you must use the power of the ancients, such as ancient ruins. Bai Luo couldn't help but be surprised, because this method is not a very simple method. First of all, it is very difficult to find the previous session, and it will be even more difficult to use their power when the time comes. Bai Luo didn't know whether this method would work. Yang Chen on the other side also stood up and said immediately, "This method is indeed a bit strange, but it is not absolutely impossible." Bai Luo couldn't help but be stunned after hearing Yang Chen's answer, and then hurriedly asked, "Do you have any other solution? I think this requirement seems to be a bit difficult, and I can't think of any suitable place now." In fact, when I heard the elder talking about the method just now, I had already thought of this aspect. I just didn't say it. Then Yang Chen said what he was thinking. "Do you remember what Ying Xian and Xiao said to us before? Didn't they always want to lead us to the underground ruins?" Bai Luo nodded, as if he had thought of something. He knew what Yang Chen was thinking before he finished speaking, so he continued to speak by borrowing Yang Chen's words. "Indeed, they proposed to take us to the underground ruins at that time. You also said that there was an example of your Yang family idiots appearing in the underground ruins, so you want us to go there to find the ancient power." Yang Chen nodded. He really thought so. The elder on the other side naturally heard their conversation and then smiled and nodded, because he also felt that the method he proposed before was indeed not feasible, but now after hearing their conversation, he felt that everything had a way. So the elder continued to speak. "Then it's great for others. As long as we have the power of the ancients, it will be very simple to solve this spell. If it is really feasible, you can give it a try." After hearing these words, Yang Zhu on the side also laughed, because she was still worried about whether this spell could be solved before, and thought that there was no way out. Unexpectedly, a solution has been found now, so Yang Zhu couldn't wait to say, "Then let's go quickly. As long as we find the underground ruins, the things behind will be much easier, and we don't have to worry about so many things." The man nodded, and then hurriedly said to Bai Luo on the side, "I know the address. I will take you there when the time comes." After hearing what Yang Chen said, the female partner on the side hurriedly said, "Brother, let's set off now. After all, we don't know what the situation is over there. Now we have only put forward an idea, and we don't know whether it will succeed later. I think we can try it quickly. After all, the situation is urgent now, and there is no time to waste." After hearing what Yang Zhu said, Yang Chen also nodded. Read the error-free version at 69 Shuba. 6 = 9 plus SHU_BAR first releases this novel. Okay, let's go now. Bai Luo, who was standing aside, also felt that there was indeed not much spare time. Then he turned around and said to the elder beside him, "Thank you very much for your advice this time, elder. You can help us come up with this solution. Otherwise, we are just scratching our heads. You just heard it. Let's go to the underground ruins and see if we can find the ancient primitive power. If we can, then this problem will be solved." The elder nodded quickly. He also felt that this was indeed the best. "Okay, then you guys go quickly. If you need any help, you can come to us." Bai Luo nodded and then led the group out of the Holy Land. Because Yang Chen knew where the underground ruins were, he led the way along the way. It just so happened that there was nothing to stop them along the way, and Yang Chen was also very familiar with this road. "I just came here not long ago. When the time comes, just follow me. It shouldn't be a big problem." Everyone trusted Yang Chen very much, so it didn't take long for them to arrive at the underground ruins. Although this road is indeed a bit secret, Yang Chen happened to be very familiar with this place, so it didn't take much effort for them to find this place. Bai Luo looked at the surrounding environment and found that it was already dilapidated. But Yang Chen thought it was natural, and the expression on his face didn't change much. Then he waved his hand directly, and then turned around and looked at Bai Luo and the others. "You guys step back a little. I'm going to try to summon the ancestor now. We have the spell. If the power of the ancestor really exists, the ancestor will naturally appear when the time comes. If it doesn't appear, it means that 80% of the final power should have disappeared. Bai Luo nodded, and then led everyone to step back a few steps. Everyone, pay attention to your surroundings, and don't get hurt. Bai Luo then looked ahead very nervously. Some other people were also very nervous. After all, success or failure depended on this one move. Chapter 404, Suffering a Heavy Blow. Then, Daoist, who was standing at the front, also began to chant the spell. Gradually, as Daoist activated his internal force to run the spell, some fluctuations appeared in the surroundings. Just when Bai Luo thought he was going to succeed, he found that there was no change in the surroundings. Suddenly, it returned to the state when they just came. Daoist looked around in disbelief, and then his expression was very ugly, but he was still unwilling to give up. Then he tried again, but in the end it was still the same. After seeing this situation, Daoist, who was standing aside, stepped forward. Then what is going on now? Has the power of the ancestor disappeared? Daoist shook his head. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be. But now the fact is like this. This is indeed incredible. After all, the ancestor appeared here last time, and it shouldn't be summoned now. After hearing what Daoist said, Bai Luo also looked around hesitantly, but there was still no movement. What should we do now? There should be no mistakes in the links we just went through. Is there something wrong here? Daoist shook his head. It is indeed possible, but they don't know how to solve it now. I don't know much about this, but there must be a problem on one side, otherwise it would not be possible to have this result. After hearing Daoist's words, Bai Luo couldn't help but sigh, and then walked around the waste. But still no useful clues were found. The expression on the face of the Great Elder on the side of the Holy Land is also very ugly. After all, Daoist just reminded him, but the situation was urgent at that time, and the Great Elder didn't think about so many problems. After Bai Luo and the others left, the Great Elder was still a little worried about the situation over there, so he directly used his calligraphy to sense the situation on the side of Daoist's ancestor. But as time went on, he felt something bad. But just now the Great Elder was not sure, and then he confirmed it again very carefully. Then he hurriedly said to the disciple beside him, "Hurry up and bring me some pens and paper. Something has happened here." After that, the disciples below heard the words of the Great Elder, and quickly brought some pens and paper. The Great Elder did not waste too much time, and then wrote a few big words on the paper. "The situation has changed, return quickly." Then the Great Elder slowly closed his eyes, silently chanted some terms, and then the paper slowly disappeared in front of him. On the other side, Bai Luo and the others were still worried about not being able to summon the ancestor. Bai Luo was now at a loss, and didn't know what to do for a while. No one in the team spoke, because everyone knew that the current situation was not easy to deal with. Just when Bai Luo was still worried about this matter, a piece of paper suddenly appeared in front of him. Bai Luo took the note with some surprise, and then saw the handwriting of the Great Elder on the paper. Daoist, who was standing next to him, naturally noticed this situation, and looked at the paper in his hand with Bai Luo. After seeing the note, the two looked at each other. What's going on? What should we do now? Bai Luo hesitated for a while, but finally turned around and looked around. Then he guessed. I think the elder should know something about the situation here, so let's go back quickly. After all, staying here is useless. We can't think of another way to summon the ancestor now, so I think there may be another way if we go back. Daoist on the side also agreed with Bai Luo's statement. So he turned around and said to some other people, "Then let's leave here quickly. After all, staying here is useless. I think the elder left us this note because he has something important to tell us." Yeah, it makes sense. Indeed. Just like that, everyone quickly reached a consensus. Then everyone hurriedly set off for the Holy Land together. On the other side, Zushuo has been living in the inn with his younger brothers since he separated from Bai Luo and the others last time. They haven't done anything bad yet. They are also staying there peacefully. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus underscore. In fact, Zushuo has been thinking about one thing these days. After all, he has dealt with Bai Luo several times. In fact, he has no intention to harm others. It was just that he did some things that were not so moral because of the pressure of life in the past. Zushuo has been thinking about what Bai Luo said to him these days. On this day, he suddenly figured out something and called all his brothers over. The brothers thought Zushuo had some bad ideas again and wanted to do some big orders. But unexpectedly, the first sentence Zushuo said was, "Brothers, I have decided to retire. After all, this kind of thing can't be done too much. I think what Bai Luo said is indeed reasonable. Some things can't be done. Anyway, there are so many ways to make money. We don't need to hurt those people. This is also the decision I made after thinking for many days." After Zushuo finished this sentence, the brothers below didn't know what to say for a while. They didn't expect Zushuo to suddenly announce this, so they were stunned for a while. Seeing that they didn't say anything, Zushuo continued. "Anyway, I have already made up my mind about this matter. As for how you choose in the future, I cannot interfere. It all depends on you." In fact, few of them really had any bad intentions. They just had to make a living. But now after hearing what Zushuo said, they were shaken. Maybe they really need such a leader. In fact, they sometimes feel condemned in their hearts. After hearing what Zushuo said, everyone nodded in agreement. "Boss, why do you say that? We have been in the same team from beginning to end. Wherever you go, we will follow." Ha 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 ha. After hearing what they said, Zushuo also smiled with great relief. Although he said before that he would not interfere with their choices, Zushuo still hoped that they could retire like him. After all, it is not good to do that kind of thing too much. Then Zushuo thought of something and quickly discussed with them. "Otherwise, we will go directly to Bai Luo and follow him in the future. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 405, Reversal. In this way, after Zushuo and his companions confirmed their decision, they immediately asked their younger brothers to search for Bai Luo and his companions in the vicinity. However, after asking for a long time, they did not find any news about Bai Luo and his companions. For this, Zushuo did not give up. He decided to expand the search range and increase the efforts to track people. He must find the hero Bai in his heart. On the other side, Bai Luo has now returned to the Holy Land. The elder on the other side saw Bai Luo and his companions coming back, and then hurried over to Bai Luo and his companions and said, "I called you here this time because I have something important to tell you. I also know that you have gone to the underground ruins to find the ancestor of the Aang family. So after you left, I directly used my magic to use spiritual power to sense the ancestor of the Aang family, but the final result was that the ancestor of the Aang family seemed to be severely injured." After hearing this news, Bao Chen on the other side looked very ugly. If it was really as the elder said, then the situation he encountered just now could be explained. Because if there was no unexpected situation, he would not have ended up like this. So Bao Chen also stood up and said, "At this time, that makes sense. When we chanted the spell to summon the ancestor just now, there was no response at all. So that's how it is." After hearing Bao Chen's explanation, the elder standing in front of him was more certain of his conclusion. Bai Luo heard their conversation and then said helplessly, "What should we do now? If we want to solve the current situation, we must find the power of the ancients, but now it seems that things are not that simple." The elder could only shake his head helplessly because he was not sure. So in the end he just said, "Don't worry about this matter now. As for the underground ruins, we will send other elders to guard them. If anything happens, I will notify you immediately. You don't need to go there now. I'm afraid there will be danger." Bai Luo nodded. He also felt that it was indeed inappropriate for them to stay there. After all, if there was really something wrong with the ancestor Aang, then that place would definitely be very unsafe. I guess this problem still needs to be left to the elders to solve. Then I'll trouble you elders. We really didn't think this through, but this is the only way to do it now. We don't have any way to break the current deadlock. No one said anything else among the few people. because everyone knew that the current situation was not optimistic. At this time, Gao Yangzu suddenly appeared in the hall. Bai Luo was also a little confused when he saw Yangzu. After all, he hadn't seen Yangzu for a long time, and he didn't expect Yangzu to take the initiative to appear in front of them. So Bai Luo took the initiative to ask, Gao Yangzu, you appear in this place at this time, do you have something to say? Gao Yangzu looked at Bai Luo and nodded immediately. She did have something to say this time. Yes, do you still remember that woman? Bai Luo couldn't help but be stunned for a moment after hearing what Yangzu said, but he reacted quickly. Then he nodded. Of course I remember. After seeing Bai Luo's reaction, Gao Yangzu continued to speak. That's great. I can feel through my spiritual power that the woman wants to hurt you, so I'm here to remind you. Bai Luo was stunned after hearing what Yangzu said. He didn't have much to do with the woman, and he didn't know when he had a grudge with her. So Bai Luo said with some doubts, how is it possible? I don't have any hatred with that person. Why would she want to hurt me? I have never offended such a strong person, and I have never fought with her. She can't waste time to go against me. Gao Yangzu naturally didn't know the reason. She could only feel the woman's motives. As for the reason, it depends on Bai Luo himself. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo could only say that he was ready to think about what he had encountered before. But in the end, he was still puzzled. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. Everyone fell into silence. After all, problems are appearing one after another. They don't have a solution. While Nansu was still thinking about this question, the little rabbit that was sealed by him just now suddenly spoke. It's possible that I know the reason for this. Everyone looked at the little rabbit in the corner in disbelief. The little rabbit could speak, and then continued. Do you remember that you have reversed time before? In fact, the woman asked me about this matter before, but I didn't give her any useful clues at that time. But you reversed time in front of her at that time. I think she may care about this. After Bai Luo heard what the little rabbit said, he suddenly realized it, but there were still many mysteries in his heart that could not be solved. If you say so, she shouldn't want to harm me. The little rabbit didn't speak again. On the other side, Bao Yang stood up at this time. I think there are still many mysteries that have not been solved, but it is possible that it is really because of the point of reversing time that it has become like this. The reason why the woman took action must be because of this matter, otherwise there would be no other suspicious points. Bai Luo nodded. Gao Yangzu on the other side finished explaining this matter, then listened to their conversation, and then said to Bai Luo and the others, then you should be careful about this matter. I can only help here. As for the identity of that woman, I will continue to investigate. Gao Yangzu paused here, and then continued. I have already made a portrait of that woman. When the time comes, I will let the disciples below monitor the movements of that woman. But Bai Luo, you must be extremely careful on your side. That woman is still very powerful. You are not her opponent at all. Bai Luo nodded. She naturally knew that the woman was not an ordinary person. Thank you very much, Gao Yangzu. Thank you very much for reminding me of this matter. Otherwise, I really didn't know that the woman was coming for me. It was really unexpected. I will be more careful next time. Gao Yangzu nodded and finally didn't say anything more. After conveying her meaning, she didn't say anything more and then left. Chapter 406. Both sides suffer. On the other side, Hualan, who had been in a coma for several days, finally woke up. As soon as Hualan opened his eyes, he immediately looked around. Recalling what he had experienced before he fell into a coma, Hualan felt that he had been deceived. After all, in his impression, Bai Luo did not have such great ability. He was at most immortal with relatively good martial arts before, but he did not expect that he had such great power. Thinking of this, Hualan could not help but pat the edge of the bed angrily. Humph, what a hateful guy. Recalling what happened in the past, Hualan felt that he had been seriously deceived, but now he could do nothing about it. Moreover, Hualan was also seriously injured and had to recover his body quickly. Otherwise, there would be many things he needed to do later. In order to recover his physical condition, Hualan had to use the fairy method to absorb the spiritual power around him. This also made Hualan's physical condition much better. But what Hualan did not expect was that he attracted the attention of Elder Lei Dian because of his use of fairy magic to absorb the power around him. Elder Lei Dian went out this time to investigate the news that Elder Feng was killed. When he came here later, he found some fluctuations in magic. On the other side, Bai Luo's progress was very fast, because the elder in front had already started to repair the ancestor Raoyang. Bai Luo and Aoyang Chen were also repairing it together in the past few days. It didn't take long for the ancestor to be repaired. Bai Luo and Aoyang Chen were very happy when they heard the news. This is great. The elder has just sent a message. The ancestor has almost recovered now. He can tell us some useful information at that time. Hearing their words, the ancestor also smiled and nodded. Then let's go over and ask now. After all, there are still many things that have not been dealt with. We are not at ease staying here now. After the two decided, they went to the place where the ancestor rested together. It happened that the elder was there. Perhaps because there was a familiar feeling in the dark, the few people did not say many polite words. After all, everyone knew that time should not be wasted. So Bai Luo also said it directly. Ancestor, we didn't find you when we went to the underground ruins. Later, the great elder learned through magic that you were seriously injured. I wonder if you can reveal some information about the reason for your injury? The ancestor was silent for a while after hearing Bai Luo's words, and then answered. Actually, it's because I'm too weak. Last time when I met the treasure stealing group, I was injured by your power, and I haven't recovered since then. In fact, the ancestor lied to Bai Luo when he said this. But the situation is like this now, and the ancestor can't reveal too much information to Bai Luo. On the other side, Bai Luo didn't seem to expect the ancestor to hide anything from him, so he believed what the ancestor said. So Bai Luo nodded, and then thought of what happened before. In fact, he didn't expect that his power could burst out so much at that time. That's why he hurt innocent people later. But the situation was urgent at that time, and Bai Luo didn't have time to care about so many things. But now that the ancestor has mentioned this place, Bai Luo still has some doubts in his heart. So Bai Luo asked directly. I don't understand what happened last time either. Why do I suddenly emit such a strong power? The ancestor was silent for a while, and then answered Bai Luo in front of him. Because there used to be many ancient strong men living in that place, your appearance may have stimulated the power left by the ancient strong men here, so it suddenly emitted such a strong power later. These are all unknown, so this is just my guess. Bai Luo nodded. He felt that the ancestor had his own reasons for saying this. After all, the power at that time was not like what he could emit. But now there is no progress, and the ancestor has not been able to give them any useful clues, so the two did not think about staying here. Bai Luo and Aoyang Chen could only slowly exit the room. The two were discussing something, and then they saw Aoyang Zhu running over from the other side in a panic. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first published this novel. After seeing this situation, Aoyang Chen couldn't help but say something. How can you be so flustered when you are old? You are still a girl after all. Aoyang Zhu just rolled her eyes at Aoyang Chen, but she didn't want to argue with him. Then she said, of course I'm so flustered, because of something important. Come here quickly. Xiaotu and Yingzi have already started fighting. We can't do anything about it, so I want you to go over and check the situation. Otherwise, things will only get worse. Bai Luo was stunned for a moment after hearing what Aoyang Zhu said, but he quickly reacted and rushed to the hall with Aoyang Chen. Bai Luo went over and saw that the situation there was indeed a bit chaotic. But at least it has been controlled now. Bai Luo looked at Xiaotu beside him, and then he said directly, what is going on? Why did they suddenly start fighting? Xiaotu was also very angry. Then he jumped to Bai Luo's side and told him the whole story. You also know that now, due to many reasons, both of our powers are sealed. I have also tried to communicate with these shadows in the past few days, hoping that they will not keep pestering us or take the initiative to leave us. We are just having some friendly exchanges with them. Bai Luo nodded when he heard this. The thief was indeed right to do this. After all, they also hope that the shadows can take care of themselves. After that, the little rabbit continued. But these shadows seem to have great malice towards us. They don't listen to what I say, and in the process, they have been dreaming of hurting us. Although sometimes both sides will suffer, they still won't turn back until they hit the south wall. This really makes me angry. When the little rabbit said this, he also glared at the shadows helplessly. Bai Luo felt very helpless after listening to the little rabbit's narration. In fact, what the little rabbit did was indeed right. Bai Luo also didn't understand why the shadows did this. After all, doing this would not benefit the shadows at all. But now Bai Luo didn't know what the shadows were thinking. Chapter 407, Change of Attitude. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo was also somewhat helpless. So Bai Luo could only say, in that case, then you can rest here first. I don't want to say more about other things. After all, you will definitely know it in your heart in the future. If you don't believe me, I can't say anything more. Bai Luo left after saying this. Then Bai Luo and his group of people started walking on the road. However, Bai Luo was still thinking about other things, so he went to plan other things. After that, Bai Luo walked silently at the end of the team, and then looked at the surrounding environment. When he confirmed that no one noticed him, Bai Luo stopped directly, and then changed direction directly. In fact, Bai Luo didn't know why he did this, but he felt that it would not be so convenient if everyone acted together. Because the purpose was not clear, Bai Luo's heart was still a little vague, so he walked aimlessly on the road. Because Zhu Shuo and others had decided to retire some time ago, Zhu Shuo also had a clear goal and wanted to find Bai Luo quickly, but he had been looking for a long time here recently and didn't get any news about Bai Luo, so he could only make many marks on the road. Although Zhu Shuo and Bai Luo didn't spend much time together, he recognized this expression. Bai Luo found several such marks on the road. When he saw such a mark, he immediately thought of Zhu Shuo whom he had met before. When Bai Luo saw this mark, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. In the end, he was a little confused. He didn't know what Zhu Shuo and the others were thinking, and what did it mean to see this mark here now. But Bai Luo still subconsciously looked for other marks on the road. After that, Bai Luo found some patterns from these marks. Bai Luo's observation was still very careful, so he found many marks along the way and came to an inn after bumping into each other. When Bai Luo came to the inn, he couldn't help but be stunned. Because this mark was indeed broken here, could it be a signal for him to enter the inn? But Bai Luo still had some concerns in his heart. After all, the previous encounters between him and Zhu Shuo did not have any good results. Although he also knew that Zhu Shuo was not a bad person, he did go astray later. Thinking of this, Bai Luo couldn't help but hesitate, so he didn't go into the inn. Finally, Bai Luo looked at the sign in front of the inn and couldn't resist his curiosity and then walked into the inn. I saw that the scale of this inn was indeed quite large and the shop was also very lively. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned and then went directly to the waiter. Because he was not sure what the situation was here and he was not sure whether those signs were left for him. So Bai Luo knew that he should not alert the enemy now. Anyway, this is the best choice. So Bai Luo changed and said to the waiter in front of him, "Hello, do you have any guest rooms here now? I want to buy a house to live in." After hearing what Bai Luo said, the waiter waved his hand quickly. "There are no rooms left, sir. If you need any, you can go to the other inns in this town. There should be rooms available, but this one won't provide accommodation to outsiders." Bai Luo was stunned for a moment after hearing what the waiter said. He thought it was really strange, and then he directly expressed his doubts. "You said your shop is not open for business here. Why is it not open to outsiders? Isn't this weird?" But the waiter ignored Bai Luo at all, obviously not wanting to talk nonsense with Bai Luo here. In the end, he directly drove Bai Luo away. "You don't have to worry about this. This is the rule of our store. Don't make things difficult for me. If you have nothing to do, just go out quickly and don't wait for us to do business here." Seeing the waiter's posture of driving people away, Bai Luo couldn't help but take a few steps back. Bai Luo looked at the door of the inn with some helplessness. What should I do now? Now I can't get in, and I don't know what the situation is inside. But what are these marks? Could they really be left by Zushuo? But, read the error-free version at 69 Shuba. 6 equals 9 plus SHU_BA published this novel for the first time. When Bai Luo was puzzled, he suddenly saw the other jade pendant on his waist. No wonder Bai Luo looked at this mark so familiar. After that, Bai Luo looked at the jade pendant on his waist. The pattern is really too similar. Bai Luo hadn't discovered this before, and only knew that this pattern should be related to Zushuo. Could it be that this jade pendant is a breakthrough? Bai Luo hesitated for a moment, and finally took the jade pendant, and walked into the inn again. When the waiter saw Bai Luo coming in again, he said impatiently, "Why are you in again? If you don't know how to walk away, don't blame me for being rude." Looking at the very impatient face of the waiter, Bai Luo also quickly took out his jade pendant. In fact, Bai Luo was just trying it out. After all, he didn't know what the jade case was for, and he didn't know what the pattern meant to Bai Luo. But Bai Luo knew that he still had to try it, otherwise he wouldn't be able to find a breakthrough. What Bai Luo didn't expect was that the moment the waiter saw the jade pendant in Bai Luo's hand, he was visibly shocked. Then the expression on his face suddenly changed a lot. His impatient face suddenly turned into a full smile. "So you are a distinguished guest. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If you had told me earlier, I would have invited you in. I was really blind just now. I hope you don't mind it." Bai Luo didn't expect this person's attitude to change so quickly, but he didn't want to argue with these people, because he had more important things to do. After all, he still had some doubts in his heart, and he had to find Zushuo quickly. If he said that he still had some doubts before, then now Bai Luo was basically sure that this matter should be related to Zushuo. According to some of the things he has discovered now, it is likely that Zushuo is looking for him. After all, Zushuo also left a lot of useful marks there along the way. If it weren't for those marks, Bai Luo wouldn't have been able to find this inn. Although he encountered some troubles on the way, he was still safe in the end. Thinking of this, Bai Luo looked upstairs with some doubt. Chapter 408, Problem Discovery. Actually, Bai Luo didn't really want to stay here to rest, he just wanted to chat with Zushuo. After all, he still had many things to ask, and he also wanted to know Zushuo's current attitude. But Zushuo hadn't appeared yet, and Bai Luo was a little confused, and said to the waiter in front of him, "Excuse me, is your boss here? Or in other words, do you know where the owner of this jade pendant is?" After hearing Bai Luo's words, the waiter was silent for a while, hesitated for a while, and then smiled, and said to Bai Luo in front of him, "My boss is not at home now. He went out for something, but he should be back in a few days. Before he went out, he just told us to treat the person with this jade pendant well, and didn't say much else." Bai Luo didn't expect to hear such an answer, so he couldn't help but frowned. Bai Luo originally thought that he would find Zushuo after entering this inn, and he could discuss some things with Zushuo at that time, but he didn't expect Zushuo to be here now. What should I do now? The waiter on the other side saw that Bai Luo's expression was not good, and then he smiled, and said to Bai Luo in front of him, "Young master, you don't have to think too much. Anyway, you are the person that my boss has asked us to treat well, so you can stay here with peace of mind. We will definitely treat you well. When the boss comes back, he can come to you directly, so don't worry." Bai Luo was still a little confused, because he didn't have so much time now. But after hesitating for a while, Bai Luo finally agreed. Because Bai Luo did have something to say to Zushuo, and Zushuo's attitude today should also show some changes. After all, Bai Luo recalled that when he and Zushuo first met, Zushuo's attitude towards him was not like this. Later, Bai Luo also advised Zushuo to change his mind. But Zushuo didn't give him an accurate answer at that time. Now he was guided by Zushuo to his own territory, and judging from the attitude of this waiter, Zushuo should have something to find him. "Okay, then please arrange a guest room for me. I'll wait for your boss to come back here." Then the waiter really did what he said. Bai Luo felt very comfortable after he appeared here, and the service here was very thoughtful. However, there was still a flaw, that is, Zhu Shuo had not come back, and Bai Luo could not find Zhu Shuo to discuss some things with him. Because Bai Luo had nothing to do in the inn these days, he sometimes chatted with the waiter in the inn. Through the content of the chat, Bai Luo actually got to know Zhu Shuo better. In fact, Zhu Shuo's nature is not bad. He became like that later, just because he met the wrong person, and finally embarked on this evil path. When he said this, the waiter couldn't help but sigh. At that time, Brother Zhu was following some of his good brothers. Another wealthy businessman in the town was doing some business, but was later cheated by those people. After those people ran away with the money, Brother Zhu had no way to deal with it, so he used some bad means to get some money. However, it was also to solve the urgent need at that time. After Brother Zhu got the money, he also helped many poor families in the town. The expression on the waiter's face was still very admiring. After Bai Luo heard the words of the waiter, his heart was also a little turbulent. In fact, he could also feel that Zhu Shuo was not bad in his heart. He was just forced by life. Last time, Bai Luo also talked to Zhu Shuo about some things, hoping that Zhu Shuo would change his mind. But Zhu Shuo did not answer him directly last time. Bai Luo stayed this time to talk to Zhu Shuo about this matter. But now Zhu Shuo has not come back. Bai Luo has no way to start. But Bai Luo also silently made a plan in his heart. As long as Zhu Shuo comes back, he will still take the time to have a good talk with Zhu Shuo. Because Bai Luo also knew that Zhu Shuo was indeed a powerful character. If Zhu Shuo could be recruited together, Bai Luo really thought it would be a good choice. Bai Luo stayed here for 2 or 3 days in a row, but still did not wait for the news of Zhu Shuo's return. If it was in the past, Bai Luo still had time to waste here. But now it is not possible. After all, there are still many things to be dealt with in the Holy Land, and Bai Luo cannot stay here for too long. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first published this novel. So Bai Luo packed his luggage that day, and then someone found the waiter. Since your boss has not come back, then I will leave first, but when the time comes, you can tell Zhu Shuo to let Zhu Shuo come to me. I still have some things to deal with, so I won't disturb you here. The waiter didn't expect Bai Luo to leave suddenly, but after hearing Bai Luo's words, he felt that he really couldn't force others to stay. So he also saluted Bai Luo. Then I wish you a safe journey, young master, and I will definitely tell him when the time comes. Bai Luo nodded. Thank you for your hospitality these days. After saying this, Bai Luo took his luggage and left the inn. Because there was no substantial gain in the town this time, Bai Luo did not plan to stay here for long. Then Bai Luo went back to the Holy Land. Sure enough, when he returned, he still faced the same situation, and the things over there were not handled properly. The shadows were still unwilling to let them go, and would rather be hurt than live in peace with them. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo could not help but waved his hand. Then he said to Yang Chen on the side, although these shadows have been missing us and have caused us a lot of trouble, we did fight back, but these shadows can't be killed at all. In the end, it just wastes our interest. Look at how much time we have wasted here. Yang Chen also knew that this was indeed the case. Seeing this situation, Yang Chen himself was anxious, but there was nothing he could do. So thinking about it, he couldn't help but sigh. The situation is indeed like this now. We haven't figured out any solution, so we can only remain in a stalemate with them. However, these shadows are really too much. They know we can't do anything about them, so they keep harassing us. When saying this, Bai Luo and Yang Chen looked at each other, and then sighed helplessly. Chapter 409, Helpless. Neither of them spoke for a while, and the expressions on their faces were very ugly. The recent situation is really not very good. Although they can now impose some restrictions on the shadows and attack them. But they can't kill the shadows at all. So the shadows can always exist, and can always affect their actions. After a long silence, Bai Luo finally spoke slowly. Since we are now in a deadlock, I think we can still look for some clues from the underground ruins. After all, we didn't get any clues we wanted there last time. I think we must have missed something important. Things can't just fall into a dead end like this. After hearing Bai Luo's words, Bao Yangchen also suddenly realized. Because they didn't think about the underground ruins last time, because of the injury of the ancestor. But at that time, many evidences proved that there should be other clues in the underground ruins. Now Bao Yangchen mentioned the underground ruins again, and Bai Luo also felt that they could indeed go there to take a look, and it might be possible to find what they wanted. So Bao Yangchen nodded. In that case, let's go again. The two of them quickly decided on the matter. And the two of them acted very quickly, and soon they called everyone over. After all, this is a collective action, and Bai Luo and the others can't just do it. After explaining this matter to everyone also felt that it was very feasible. Then they planned to set off together. However, Bai Luo planned to leave Xiao behind this time. After all, it was too dangerous over there, and Bai Luo didn't want to take Xiao and the others on an adventure. So Bai Luo also said to Xiao, then Xiao will stay in the Holy Land this time, and the things over there will be handed over to us. There shouldn't be anything important to deal with over there, so Xiao can have a good rest here. Xiao naturally knew that Bai Luo was worried about their safety. He also knew that if he went there and encountered other unexpected situations, Bai Luo would not be able to protect himself. In addition, Xiao didn't get along well with Shadow these days, and was very depressed, so he didn't say much. Just when the few people were about to set off, the saint on the other side suddenly appeared in the hall for some reason. However, Bai Luo still took the initiative to greet them. Saintess, may I ask what you are here for this time? A group of us are going to go underground to look for clues. In fact, the saintess had just heard some news from the disciples before rushing here. Naturally, there were some things that needed to be discussed with Bai Luo. So the saintess nodded and then said to Bai Luo in front of her, I just heard some news from the address, and I know that you are going to leave your body and go underground to look for some clues. I came here for this matter. After hearing the saintess answer, Bai Luo couldn't help but frown. Then the saintess continued. You also know that the matter of that woman last time has not been resolved, and now it is basically certain that that woman must want to harm you. If you leave the Holy Land now, no one will guarantee your life safety. After hearing the saintess words, Bai Luo also felt that it was indeed very dangerous, but now Bai Luo had no other way. If he wanted to find another breakthrough, he had to go underground to look for clues. But leaving the Holy Land means there will be danger. There is no other way. I will be more careful later. If I really can't escape, I will accept it. After hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint's face, which was very calm just now, suddenly showed a trace of sadness. Then the saint said directly to Bai Luo in front of her, I came here this time, of course, not to block your way. After all, I also know that finding clues is very important, but we have to be wary of what that woman will do, so this time I will go with you, and I can take care of you on the way. Bai Luo, who was standing aside, didn't expect that the saint's words would go with him. In fact, Bai Luo also thought that this was indeed a good choice. After all, this way it is indeed a lot more confident. And now that the saint has taken the initiative to talk about this matter, Bai Luo naturally has nothing to be hypocritical about. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. So he bowed directly to the saint in front of him. Thank you very much, saint. Now the situation is urgent, so let's set off quickly. After Bai Luo finished this sentence, he led a group of people to the underground. In fact, the saint was also very happy on the road. Although the road was indeed difficult to walk on, the saint saw Bai Luo on the side and naturally felt very happy in her heart. Just now, she just said that she was worried about Bai Luo's safety and wanted to take care of him on the road. But the saint still had some selfish thoughts in her heart. And the source of these selfish thoughts was completely because of Bai Luo. Thinking of this, the saint couldn't help but smile, but the smile was very small, and it would not be noticed by the people around him. On the other side, Bai Luo's mood was not so wonderful. It was not because of the people and things around him, but Bai Luo's mood in the past few days was really not very good. After all, many things have not been solved now, and Bai Luo has no way at all. He searched for a long time, but didn't have any ideas. This also made Bai Luo a little anxious. He recalled his experience during this period, and felt very strange. From the moment he decided to cultivate immortals, a series of things that happened later caught him off guard. If Bai Luo was thinking about other things before, now Bai Luo feels that he has completely embarked on the traditional path of cultivating immortals. It has always been just a replica of other people's experiences. After realizing this, Bai Luo's mood could not get better. Some of his previous assumptions have been slowly overturned by himself, and Bai Luo didn't know what to do next. And now Bai Luo also feels that he is very weak. After all, he has not handled anything well now, and he feels that he has been troubled by one thing. Even if there is an opportunity in front of him at that time, he doesn't think he can catch it at that time. This feeling of powerlessness makes Bai Luo feel very depressed, even a sense of defeat. But Bai Luo will not pass this emotion to the people around him, so he can only keep it in his heart. Because Bai Luo knows very well that everyone is very anxious now, if he still says such discouraging words now, it will only make everyone more anxious. Chapter 410, Strange Feelings. When Bai Luo thought of this, he became melancholy, often staring blankly in one direction, which made him very confused. After all, too many things happened during this period of time, and Bai Luo also fell into deep self-doubt. He didn't understand what would happen next, that he couldn't imagine. And Bai Luo also felt that he didn't handle some things well, so the situation became worse and worse. If he did better, he might not need to come here now. Thinking of this, Bai Luo sighed helplessly, but didn't tell anyone around him. The saint on the other side seemed to have noticed that Bai Luo was a little bit strange, and then she said with some concern, "What's wrong? Did you find something wrong? I see that the expression on your face doesn't seem to be very good." In fact, Bai Luo is not a person who likes to pass on his negative emotions to the people around him. Although Bai Luo is indeed thinking about a lot of things in his heart and can't get out of the shackles he has given himself, he doesn't intend to tell others about this negative emotion. Because emotions are contagious, Bai Luo also smiled bleakly and then pretended to be relaxed and said to the saint on the side, "It's nothing, but a lot of things have happened recently. I just sighed because I'm tired. Anyway, the things that come later will be solved slowly, and it will get better and better." Hearing Bai Luo say this, the saint couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. She originally thought that Bai Luo's mood was affected by these things. Now seeing the smile on Bai Luo's face, the saint felt that her worries were redundant. So the saint said, "It's great that you can think of others like this. After all, a lot of bad things have happened recently, and many things have not been handled well. I'm still worried about your mood, but it seems that you have adjusted yourself quite well, which is a very good thing." Bai Luo could only respond with a smile, even though he was indeed in deep doubt now. But he didn't plan to tell others. After all, he also knew that this was his own business, and many things were indeed not handled well by him. He didn't think carefully enough, so he put this matter into a dead loop. It doesn't matter, it will get better and better in the future, so let's continue on our way. After all, the situation is urgent now, and we don't have much time to waste. Then Bai Luo and the saint continued to walk forward together. As the two were walking, Bai Luo, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped. In fact, Bai Luo didn't think much about it at first, but when he was walking on the side of the road, he suddenly heard a few strange sounds. Those sounds came from the bushes next to him. So Bai Luo looked over there curiously, and then stopped. The saint next to him naturally noticed the situation here, and then hurried over, thinking that something had happened here. "What's wrong? Why don't you go forward?" Bai Luo pointed to the bushes over there, and then said to the saint next to him, "There seems to be some strange sounds over there, and it feels like something is over there." For a while, no one of them spoke. In the end, the saint also heard a sound over there. Then she nodded. "I heard it too, so should we go over and check the situation now?" Bai Luo hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded in agreement. Although they really need to hurry up now, Bai Luo is still a little curious about what happened over there, and if possible, they can find useful clues. After all, they really need some clues to cheer people up now. So Bai Luo said to the scientist beside him, "You stay here first. I'll go see what's over there." The scientist didn't answer Bai Luo right away, but after Bai Luo finished speaking, she followed Bai Luo over. Bai Luo naturally noticed that the scientist followed him, but he didn't say anything more. The scientist smiled and then explained her behavior. "It's safer for two people to act together, and I can help you take care of it." Bai Luo didn't say anything because they were very close to the bush now. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Bai Luo slowly approached the bush, and then he directly peeled away the bushes in front of him. What Bai Luo didn't expect was that Bai Luo thought something was wrong here just now, but when he opened the bushes, he found that it was just a wounded rabbit. And it was just an ordinary rabbit. Bai Luo looked at the rabbit's feet and saw obvious bloodstains. Now it should be hiding here, just to recover from its injuries. But this is not a good place, and Bai Luo also knew that there must be a lot of wild animals around. Bai Luo thought about it, and then picked up the rabbit. Then he saw the heroine next to him, and then he said directly to the heroine next to him, "Don't worry, this should be just an ordinary rabbit. It's still injured on its leg. This little rabbit looks seriously injured. It's fate that we met it today." When Bai Luo said this, he slowly put his hand on the little rabbit's leg. Then he silently recited a few spells. Then the wound on the little rabbit's leg healed. Then Bai Luo didn't plan to keep this little rabbit anymore, and then he squatted down and let the little rabbit go. But the little rabbit's injury was indeed completely healed. After Bai Luo put it down, he disappeared directly in the bushes. After seeing this situation, the saint next to him just smiled and looked at Bai Luo. She used to think that Bai Luo's mind would not be so delicate, but she didn't expect Bai Luo to be so caring. After thinking about this, the saint looked at Bai Luo with a different look in her eyes. In fact, the saint had some good impressions of Bai Luo before, otherwise she would not be willing to follow Bai Luo all the time and solve so many problems for Bai Luo. It's just that the saint will not speak these things out loud. She is not sure how Bai Luo feels about her, so the saint can only choose to stay with Bai Luo silently. So the saint also spoke to Bai Luo in front of her in a slightly normal voice. "I didn't expect you to be so caring. It's the fate of this little rabbit to meet us today. Otherwise, the serious wound just now might be eaten directly by the beasts here. I hope it can be safe in the future." Bai Luo nodded and then stood up and wanted to leave. Chapter 411, Wrong Guess. Bai Luo had just stood up when he saw something unexpected around him. So Bai Luo couldn't help but look over there for several times. The saint on the side naturally noticed the situation on Bai Luo's side, and then she also cast her eyes over there, and then she couldn't help but take a breath. Then she said with some doubts, "What is this? It feels like an ordinary little frog, but it looks a little strange, not quite like a frog, and the sound doesn't sound like it." Bai Luo nodded. He actually saw the little animals next to him just now. At first glance, he thought it was a little frog, but now he looks more carefully, and it doesn't look like it. Just now, he also heard the sounds of those little animals next to him, but they didn't sound like ordinary frogs at all. The sound sounded pretty good, and Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned when he thought of this. Then he leaned over there. Then he carefully observed the little animal over there, and his face was full of doubts. Then he said to the saint on the side, "This thing is really strange, and now it is certain that it is not an ordinary frog, because there are too many differences. However, this thing actually appeared here, and it is so strange. I think there is something wrong." The saint nodded. She really didn't know what the situation was. After all, she had never seen such a creature in her life. "Isn't this thing a mutant? Otherwise, I have been here for such a long time and have never seen such a creature. It should be a mutant." Bai Luo did not answer the saint immediately because he also had such a guess. But just now Bai Luo actually detected some strange auras on these small animals. This aura was very special to Bai Luo, and he did not expect that they would emit such an aura. Finally, Bai Luo thought about it and then told the saint beside him about his discovery. But I just detected some special auras on them, so I think things may not be that simple. It seems that they are not ordinary mutations. Look at these animals, they look very healthy. If they are mutants, they may be missing limbs, but now it seems that this is not the case. The auras on them are also hard to figure out. Bai Luo was right, so the saint also fell into deep thought. If it was confirmed that it was just a mutation, then they could leave now, but Bai Luo did mention some points just now. The saint thought that things might not be that simple. For safety reasons, the saint slowly squatted down and then leaned towards the animals with her hands. Then the saint's hands suddenly glowed. Bai Luo also knew that these were some unique spells in the Bible which could see many places that he could not see. He just said so much to the saint just to let her see if his guess was correct. Then Bai Luo looked at the scene in front of him nervously and then looked at the small animals below. Not long after, the saint slowly opened her eyes. Then Bai Luo said anxiously, "How is it? Have you found anything here?" The saint looked at Bai Luo's nervous expression, and then she pursed her lips a little embarrassedly. Because when she used magic to check the situation of these animals just now, she did not find the clues they wanted. So the saint just sighed, and then said to Bai Luo a little embarrassedly, "I don't know why I didn't detect any unusual clues on them, as if they were just ordinary animals, but the points you just said are indeed very reasonable, and I don't understand why the result is like this." After hearing the words of the saint, Bai Luo couldn't help but take a breath. Originally thought that he could find some clues here, but it turned out to be just a false alarm. So Bai Luo also straightened his clothes and then stood up directly. Since this is the case, we have no other way. If we really can't find anything, there is no way. We can only do so much. Maybe I really think too much. Looking at the disappointed expression on Bai Luo's face, the saint felt very uncomfortable, but the current situation is like this. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus underscore. So the saint didn't say much. Bai Luo, who was standing by, knew that the disappointment on his face was too obvious, so he quickly changed the subject. There is no other way now, and we don't need to waste time here, so let's hurry up, otherwise we will delay the process again. The saint nodded, and then followed Bai Luo to the front. However, the two didn't say much on the way. However, the saint was still a little worried about Bai Luo's mood, so she said to the side, "Are you still worried about what happened just now? In fact, there is no need to think about so many things that will happen step by step, and everything will be resolved in the end." Bai Luo also felt that his emotional fluctuations just now were too big, which was not good for everyone. So he quickly changed the subject. "No, I don't think about that thing anymore. After all, it's all over. We didn't find any useful clues just now. I was just thinking about some annoying things, so you don't have to worry too much. This is just my own personal emotional problem." Hearing Bai Luo say this, the saint didn't feel any better. Because the saint had just heard the personal emotional issues that Bai Luo had mentioned, she was still a little curious. Although the saint knew that it was indeed a little abrupt to ask this question, she couldn't help but ask tentatively, "Are the personal emotional issues you just mentioned about you and our Yangzhu?" Bai Luo didn't expect the saint to suddenly bring up the topic, so he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. The saint also realized that her question seemed a little abrupt, so she quickly waved her hand to explain. "I don't have any bad intentions. I just heard some of the disciples around me talking about it, so I'm a little curious. If you mind, you can choose not to answer." "Sorry." Bai Luo on the other side saw that the saint was so nervous, and then he waved his hand in a good-tempered manner. He was not so taboo about this question. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412, Slightly Lost. Because Bai Luo is now probably clear about what kind of feelings he has for our Yangzhu, sometimes he doesn't deliberately avoid anything when getting along with her. He still expresses his emotions passionately. Although Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhou have not confirmed their relationship, Bai Luo is basically sure that his feelings for Ao Hangzhou are different from others. Now that the saint suddenly shifted the topic to this topic, Bai Luo was naturally happy to hear it. After all, the saint was still worried about her emotions just now. Now talking about some unimportant things can relax her mood. It just so happens that there are still some things that she doesn't understand. So Bai Luo turned around and said to the saint next to her with a smile, "It doesn't matter. In fact, these are not secrets anymore. The disciples can understand it when they spread it." Just now, the saint was indeed curious about the current relationship between Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhou and wanted to know what Bai Luo's attitude towards Ao Hangzhou was. In fact, she could see some strangeness when she was beside him before, but the saint always had a good impression of Bai Luo in her heart. Now hearing Bai Luo say this, the saint's heart still couldn't help but skip a beat. Then she smiled reluctantly. "Is that so?" "It is indeed obvious." Bai Luo did not notice the subtle disappointment on the saint's face, so he continued to talk. "Although I'm sure of my feelings for Ao Hangzhou now, but we have not confirmed any relationship. We are just getting along like friends. But I think I should find a way to express my feelings to Ao Hangzhou earlier in the future, so that it will be better for everyone." If the saint still had a little fluke in her heart just now, but now after hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint's heart still couldn't help but ache. But the saint couldn't show her emotions too obviously, otherwise it would be too embarrassing. So the saint also forced a smile and pretended to be very calm and said to Bai Luo beside her, "That's really good, but don't be too anxious. Just let things take their course." Bai Luo nodded and didn't think he said too much, but he didn't continue the topic. After all, this topic was still about some personal issues, and Bai Luo didn't like to reveal some of his emotional problems to others. Just now, I just wanted to change the topic. After all, Bai Luo had been immersed in one thing before, and the mood of failure was not very good. So I just wanted to talk about some lighter topics. It seems that the effect has been mentioned now, so Bai Luo didn't say anything more. The saint on the other side followed Bai Luo, and the frown on her face had never been relaxed. Just now, I listened to Bai Luo's words, and in fact, many things are very clear. If the saint might have thought that she was overthinking before, it is basically certain now that Bai Luo is very different from Ao Hangzhou. Thinking of this, the saint could only laugh at herself. But the saint knew that she couldn't do anything now. Since she already knew the result, she didn't intend to show her different feelings towards Bai Luo. Otherwise, it would not be good for everyone in the end. So the two of them kept on going. The saint would say something to ease the atmosphere before, but now she was not in the mood. They became silent on the road. But Bai Luo didn't notice the saint's mood, but kept on going. Not long after, the two came to the underground space. Bai Luo stopped at the intersection and finally said to the saint beside him, "Why don't you wait outside first? I'll go in and take a look." In fact, Bai Luo was still quite worried about the situation inside. After all, many things had not been handled before this time. Bai Luo knew that the situation here would definitely not be better than he imagined. Anyway, it should be difficult to deal with. The saint just refused directly. After all, she came here to help Bai Luo. If Bai Luo was allowed to go in alone now, it might be possible that Bai Luo would encounter some danger inside, and she would not be able to help. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. In that case, it would be better for him to stay in the Holy Land, as it would only be a waste of time. So the saint said directly to Bai Luo in front of him, "Don't think about it. Since I'm here, I will definitely go in with you. And you know that I'm here just to protect your safety. That woman won't let you go so easily, so I'll go in with you." Hearing the saint say this, Bai Luo didn't know what to say. He just nodded to express his gratitude to the saint in front of him. "Then I'll trouble you, but you still have to be careful when you go." After the two of them made their decision, they stepped into the underground space together. But what Bai Luo didn't expect was that Bai Luo originally thought that there would be some scary things in this underground space, but he didn't expect to find that the environment here was unusually good when he walked in. The environment here looks very good, with green mountains and clear waters, but I think the environment outside is not as good as this one. The scene he saw last time was not like this. So Bai Luo also hurriedly said to the saint beside him, "This should be an illusion." The saint nodded. In fact, she could have thought of this. After all, the underground space is not as simple as they imagined, but now this scene is indeed very beautiful, and it also made the saint's depressed mood suddenly improve. This beautiful environment can really relax people. So the saint said to Bai Luo beside her with a smile, "It's pretty good here. Anyway, I feel much more comfortable here than outside, and the environment here is really beautiful." Bai Luo also nodded. The environment inside was indeed surprisingly good. This should be the underground space, because we really didn't take the wrong road just now, and the door is indeed the same as before, so this should be the underground space, there is no mistake. After understanding Bai Luo's words, the saint also nodded. After entering, she looked at the surrounding environment again, was silent for a while, and then said to Bai Luo in front of her, "Since the environment here has changed, and it can be confirmed that this must be an underground space, I think it is very likely that the external force has affected some of the operations of the underground space, so it has caused some changes in the scene inside. If we want to enter the real underground space, we must find another exit quickly." Chapter 413, Mysterious Figure. After listening to the words of the saint, Bai Luo also felt that what the saint said made a lot of sense. After all, the real underground space does not look like this. Bai Luo had been here before. Although the current scene does look very good, Bai Luo also knew that the place they needed to come to was not here at all. So Bai Luo nodded, and then said to the saint beside him, "You are right. This should not be an underground space. If we want to go to the real underground space, we must leave here quickly and find a new exit. Then we can go to where we really want to go." Their guesses were indeed correct. So the two of them looked for an exit directly in this space. However, this space does look very beautiful and very vast. When the two of them walked, there was no purpose at all. Because the two of them did not find any directional clues, they could only walk aimlessly inside. After seeing this situation, the saint could not help but say something. "So what should we do now? We can't just keep wandering around like this. I thought there would be some useful clues inside, but now I haven't found any clues that point to something after walking for so long." Bai Luo also frowned and observed the situation around him, but there was really no result. So Bai Luo could only sigh, and then said to the saint beside him, "There is no other way now. We really didn't find anything wrong along the way, and no one told us where the exit was, so we can only walk step by step and see what happens next." The saint nodded. "That's indeed the truth, but we don't have to worry too much. This is definitely not a dead end. There must be an exit, but we just didn't find it." While the two were still talking about this, Bai Luo suddenly saw a few figures flashing in front of him. The sound moved very fast, and Bai Luo only saw a few glances before he found that the person in front had disappeared. But he could roughly see that direction. The saint beside him naturally saw this situation. When she saw the sound suddenly flashing in front of her, she also shouted quickly, and then wanted to chase after it. "There are people ahead." The saint had just run a few steps forward when she was stopped by Bai Luo. Actually, Bai Luo was a little excited just now, but it was a bit reckless to go up like this. Bai Luo was not sure about the identities of those people, nor did he know what their purpose was. So Bai Luo hurriedly stopped the saint, not wanting her to take the risk of going up like this. "Don't be so excited first. We don't know what they want to do recently. It shouldn't be that simple for those people to suddenly appear in front of us just now. You must not act alone. If you are hit by their level, it may be difficult to deal with the things in the future. After all, we still have to be extremely careful here." After hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint also felt that she was indeed a little contradictory just now. But it happened that Bai Luo stopped her just now, otherwise she would have chased after them by now. So after realizing this, the saint also quickly stopped and then stepped back a few steps. So what should we do now? Should we make a big deal here? We have been here for so long and finally found something wrong. I think that sound is likely to be our breakthrough point. Although it is a bit dangerous, I also think we can follow that point to investigate. Bai Luo nodded. It was indeed the case. Then Bai Luo knew this direction. Although Bai Luo did not chase him immediately, he had been paying attention to the direction in which the figure moved. The voices just now were running over there. So Bai Luo also hurriedly said to the saint beside him, "It is indeed very important. I just held you, just because I was worried that there would be a trap over there. Let's slowly approach that place together. I just found that those things all ran over there. When the time comes, we will go together and take care of each other. Otherwise, it is too dangerous to act alone." The saint also looked in the direction that Bai Luo pointed to and found that there seemed to be several small wooden houses over there. Then she said to Bai Luo beside her, "Then let's go over there quickly. Don't let those people run away. I think this should be our breakthrough point." Bai Luo nodded and then he led the saint to move over there. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. But when the two walked over there again, they found that the situation over there was not as simple as they thought. When they looked at this place from a distance just now, Bai Luo thought it was just a few small wooden houses. Who knew that, when they walked in, they found that there was actually a wooden door. Moreover, the saint and the others didn't know where this place was, nor did they know what would appear after opening this door. Bai Luo also frowned and stood in front of this door. "I just heard a few similar sounds. It should be that this door has been opened just now, but now we can't open it. Those figures just now may have entered this wooden door." The saint also frowned. After all, the current situation is not easy to deal with. They must make a choice. The saint didn't think that this matter would be so simple, and she didn't know what kind of scene would appear after opening the door. So the saint also hesitated. What should we do now? This seems to be our only way out, but I'm not sure if it's safe. If it's a trap, we might be very passive, but if we don't do anything, we can only be trapped here. Bai Luo nodded. The current facts are indeed as the saint said. It seems that they have no other choice. So Bai Luo could only smile sadly and then slowly approach that place. Then he couldn't help but turn around and say to the saint behind him, "Keep a certain distance from me. I'll go to the front to see the situation first, because I don't know what's in front. Now this is just the best choice. Otherwise, if the two of us go together, we might lose two at a time. I'll go over to see the situation first and then decide what to do next." The saint hesitated. Although she was a little reluctant in her heart, he won last night. Although she didn't want Bai Luo to take risks alone, the situation was like this now, and she had to make a good sentence. Chapter 414, Foul-Smelling Gas. So the saint nodded helplessly, but in the end she still said to Bai Luo, who was standing beside her with some worry, "Then you must be careful when you approach that door. I think things must not be that simple. If there is anything wrong, you should retreat quickly. I will keep watching the situation behind. However, the most important thing is a life safety. If there is anything wrong, please tell me immediately. Don't be stubborn, otherwise the situation will get worse and worse." Bai Luo looked at the serious expression on the saint's face and finally put away the smile on his face. Then he promised, "Don't worry about this. I won't joke with my life." After Bai Luo finished this sentence, he continued to approach the upper part. Because they were very close to the upper part just now, Bai Luo came to the door in a few steps. Then Bai Luo tentatively touched the door and found that the door did not seem to be able to be opened immediately. Then Bai Luo checked the surrounding situation again and found that there seemed to be no useful clues. Just when Bai Luo wanted to try to open the door again, he suddenly found a very unpleasant smell in the air. Bai Luo also quickly held his breath. Then he looked at the situation around him, and then he was unwilling to try to open the door again. But there was still no effect. The door seemed to be non-existent. No matter how hard Bai Luo tried, there was no movement. Bai Luo found a very pessimistic situation. His hands, which were very strong just now, suddenly became soft. What's going on? Why did his physical strength disappear so quickly? Now Bai Luo actually felt that his whole body had no strength. Could it be related to this unpleasant gas? Thinking of this, Bai Luo stopped his hand movements and walked slowly to the back. However, because his hands and feet had no strength, he walked very slowly and almost fell several times. The saint standing behind naturally noticed the abnormal situation on Bai Luo's side, so she hurried forward. After seeing this situation, he immediately said to the saint behind him, "Hold your breath, there is something wrong with the gas here, let's retreat quickly." Bai Luo happened to pass the message quickly, so the saint had already held her breath before she ran over. Then she helped Bai Luo, who was still trembling just now. After that, the two of them retreated together. After the saint confirmed that the smell over there could no longer reach this side, she stopped. Finally, she hurriedly asked Bai Luo about the situation here. "How are you now? What happened over there? Isn't there a big problem?" It happened that Bai Luo reacted quickly just now, so he didn't inhale much gas at all. Later, he retreated quickly, so Bai Luo's current situation is much better than before, and the strength in his hands and feet is slowly returning. Then Bai Luo hurriedly said to the saint beside him, "It's not a big problem, but the gas over there is really not allowed. I didn't find anything wrong when I went there, but the door really couldn't be opened. I tried many ways to open the door but couldn't. Then a smelly gas appeared behind it. I reacted quickly at the time, but I still inhaled some gas, so suddenly my hands and feet were weak, and my physical strength was consumed very quickly." After listening to Bai Luo's explanation, the saint also nodded quickly. Then she directly pulled Bai Luo's hand over, and then helped Bai Luo feel his pulse. Sure enough, what Bai Luo said was indeed correct. Through Bai Luo's pulse, the saint also found that Bai Luo's physical strength was indeed consumed very quickly. But it just happened that Bai Luo reacted quickly just now, so now there are signs of improvement. But after all, it still consumed a lot of physical strength. It just so happens that you reacted quickly, but you still need to rest for a while, otherwise it is impossible to recover as before. After hearing what the saint said, Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus underscore. Because it is not a good thing to suddenly consume too much physical strength at this time, because Bai Luo now does not know what the voices just now mean, and the unpleasant gas just now appeared when he passed by. Thinking of this, Bai Luo also hurriedly told the saint in front of him about his doubts. "I feel that things are not that simple. Now their goal has been achieved. My physical strength is consumed so quickly now. Although it is indeed much better now, my strength will definitely decrease a lot. If they attack us now, it is possible that we are not their opponents at all." The saint had not thought of this just now, and now she felt very suspicious after hearing Bai Luo's words. After that, the saint looked around very resolutely, but now the surroundings were unusually quiet, and there was nothing wrong at all. But this made the saint even more anxious. What should we do now? I think it is very likely to be like this, but we can't go out quickly now, and we haven't found another exit. Can we only sit here and wait for death? Bai Luo's expression was not good. After hesitating for a while, he finally said directly to the saint in front of him, "Since we don't know what those people's purpose is, we'd better not act rashly and see what they want to do. Otherwise, if we move around blindly, it won't be very effective. But I think those people are not so easy to deal with, so we have to quickly set up a barrier around us. At least it can be regarded as the last barrier to protect us." After hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint felt that this was indeed feasible, because she had already considered in advance that Bai Luo's physical strength was consumed so quickly. The saint also directly used her own power to add a barrier around herself and Bai Luo. The saint looked at the barrier beside her, and she still felt a little unsure. Just when the saint wanted to turn around and say something to Bai Luo beside her, she suddenly heard some strange noises. Then, before the saint could react, she heard the roar of the monster. This was something the saint had never expected, so she subconsciously stepped back a few steps. Just when the saint was still in shock, she suddenly found that Bai Luo had walked in front of her to protect her. Chapter 415, Unfathomable. Looking at Bai Luo's back blocking the way, the saint didn't know what to say for a moment. In fact, Bai Luo didn't think much about it. It was just a subconscious action. After all, the saint came to this underground space with him this time just to help him, so when he realized the danger, Bai Luo naturally stood in front. The saint on the other side didn't think much about it. He knew that Bai Luo did this just because he was a friend, and Bai Luo had told her about his feelings for the heroine before. But the saint had to admit that when Bai Luo stood in front of her, the saint was still very moved. So after knowing this more clearly, the saint was even more disappointed. It would be better if Bai Luo had her in his heart. Then the saint didn't let herself fall into such emotions, because they had more important things to deal with. It was just that they heard the roar of the monster just now. That's why Bai Luo reacted like this. The saint subconsciously dodged to the back, and then slowly opened her eyes, after waiting for the sound to pass. Then she hurried to check the surrounding situation. Bai Luo, who was standing at the side, had always been standing at the front, and had never stepped back. He had actually been paying attention to all the scenes in front of him just now. Now that the sound had disappeared, Bai Luo still couldn't help but frown. Then he said to the saintess beside him, "The sound has disappeared now, but just now I only heard the roars of several monsters, but I didn't see any unknown creatures." The saintess didn't answer immediately, but turned around and looked around. Sure enough, what Bai Luo said was not wrong. The saintess looked around and didn't find anything wrong. How could this happen? Bai Luo shook his head, not knowing how to deal with the current situation. But the two of them searched around for a while and still didn't find any traces. It felt like nothing had happened just now. The two of them had no idea, and then they continued to move forward. Because they both knew that what happened now was not important. The most important thing was to find the exit quickly. The most difficult problem they were facing now was that they couldn't find any clues about the exit. For a long time, Bai Luo and the saintess just kept rushing forward and didn't find any clues they wanted. But neither Bai Luo nor the saint said anything discouraging. Although they were indeed somewhat skeptical, they also knew that they could not bring negative emotions to each other. Because they had no choice now, and it was impossible to go back. Not long after, Bai Luo, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped. Then he quickly turned around and pointed at the situation in front of him, and then the saint said to the side, "There is something going on ahead." Then the saint slowed down her pace and slowly moved forward. Because they had walked for so long, before they finally got some progress, the saint was a little nervous. Looking in the direction that Bai Luo pointed, the saint saw that there was actually a small pavilion in front, and under the small pavilion, there were actually several old people playing chess there. Because the distance was a bit far, the saint could not see the faces of those people clearly, and could only judge from some actions that they should be playing chess. In fact, just looking at it this way, the saint felt that those people did not seem to be bad people. After all, the environment in this space is really good, and there are several elderly people over 70 playing chess there leisurely. So the first feeling of the saint was that she didn't think those people were dangerous. So the saint said directly to Bai Luo, who was standing beside her, "Why don't we go over and see what's going on over there? It's not a problem for us to hide here anyway. I think that's very likely to be our breakthrough point." Bai Luo still hesitated for a while. After all, in this situation, no one knew what would happen if they rushed forward. But what the saint said did make sense. If they hid here, they would definitely not make any progress. Although there was no danger, their ultimate goal was to find an exit. So Bai Luo finally nodded. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Okay, then this is the only way now. Staying here is not the case. After the two of them discussed this, they stood up and went out. After that, the few old men over there also saw Bai Luo and his arrival, and then they all cast their eyes on Bai Luo. Because the distance between the few people was not far, Bai Luo and the saint quickly came in front of them. Before Bai Luo could speak, an old man with a long beard spoke first. "Who are you? How come you are here?" Bai Luo wanted to answer, but he interrupted me before I could open my mouth. because those old men didn't intend to listen to Bai Luo's answer, and then they all turned their eyes to the saint. The old man continued to say to the saint, "Why do you look so familiar? I can't tell what it feels like, but I think you are very likable." Bai Luo was confused by what this man said and felt very strange. But the saint seemed to have some thoughts in her mind. In fact, when the saint saw the old men for the first time, she also felt very familiar. She always felt that she had seen these old men somewhere, but she couldn't tell who they were. But before, the saint always thought it was her own illusion, and didn't think much about it. But who knew that at this time, she heard the words of these old men again, and the saint also felt very strange in her heart. Then she lowered her voice, and said to Bai Luo beside her, "I don't know if it's my illusion, but I feel very familiar with these old men. I always feel like I've seen them somewhere, but I can't remember." Bai Luo frowned after hearing the saint's answer, and then looked at the old men in front of him. In fact, these old men really looked very kind, with the temperament of immortals. But these old men were also silently looking at Bai Luo and the saint in front of them. Because the saint had some concerns in her heart, she stood up and said to the old men in front of her, "I don't know why you are here. To be honest, I also felt very familiar when I saw you, but I can't say where I have seen you. I don't know what your origins are. Let me think about whether there is another connection between us." After hearing the saint's words, the other old men looked at each other. Ha ha ha. Then they laughed. Chapter 416, Change of Situation. The saint felt confused, but the old men didn't think so. Then the old man with a long beard stood up and said directly to the saint in front of him, "We can't say much about the rest, but although your strength is quite good, it is still far behind me back then, so you still have to practice well and don't play around." After hearing what the old man said, the saint's face was full of disbelief. She never thought that the old men in front of her would say these words to her. The tone seemed quite intimate, but the content of the words made the saint feel a little uncomfortable. After all, she is the saint of the Holy Land, and she has been a very talented person since she was a child. She was also praised by the elders since she was a child. But she didn't expect these people to directly deny her strength and teach her a lesson. The saint didn't know what to say for a moment, because she also knew that the identities of these people were definitely not simple, and they might have some connection with the Holy Land. So the saint didn't refute anything, but she couldn't help feeling a little awkward in her heart. "Thank you for your advice, seniors. However, it was an accident for us to enter this space this time. I wonder if you seniors can give us some clues?" Although Bai Luo felt that the identities of the old men in front of him were indeed a little strange, he still knew that the purpose of their coming here was just to find a way out. So Bai Luo asked them directly. The old seniors who had just focused all their attention on the same girl immediately noticed Bai Luo standing aside. Then they looked at Bai Luo in front of them again. Then their expressions were not good, and they pointed at Bai Luo and said directly, "You, young man, look so strange. Although we don't have those supernatural abilities, at least your strength can be seen. Standing in front of us, we can at least understand your strength by 70% or 80%. But you, young man, are an accident. I haven't seen how strong you are for a long time." Bai Luo didn't answer anything, because he also knew why these people couldn't see his strength. After all, he never belonged here. But Bai Luo would not explain anything to them, because even the same girl didn't know some of his things. However, after hearing what the old man said, the same girl beside him couldn't help but look at Bai Luo a few more times. However, the most urgent task now is not to worry about this matter. They must quickly find the exit, and then quickly go to the real underground space. Then Bai Luo continued, "My strength is not worth mentioning. I wonder if the seniors can provide us with some information about the exit. We will be very grateful." The old men in front of him didn't take their words to heart at all, but kept talking about other topics. Just now, they were arguing about the strength of Bai Luo and the same girl. Now another old man stood up and pointed at Bai Luo and said, "What do you mean by exit or not? You two young lovers are really scheming. What's wrong with chatting with us old people? Couple." When Bai Luo heard this title, he wanted to explain quickly, and then he said directly, "You misunderstood. We Who knew that before Bai Luo finished his sentence, the saint girl beside him interrupted Bai Luo directly. I would like to ask the seniors to tell us some useful clues. After some conversations just now, I know that the seniors must have some relationship with the Holy Land. To be honest with the seniors, we all came from the Holy Land. I hope the seniors can give us some help. Bai Luo saw that he was interrupted by the saint before he finished explaining, but the saint brought the topic back to this and didn't say anything more. After all, this misunderstanding is not that important to him, and he and these old people should not have any intersection again. The saint on the other side actually has some selfish motives. She certainly knows that these old people should just be misunderstandings, but after these few days of getting along, although the saint has already known that the relationship between Bai Luo and our Hangzhou is not as simple as she imagined. But the saint also knows that, although they have a good impression of each other, they have not confirmed the relationship yet, and the saint feels that she still has a chance. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first published this novel. This is also the saint secretly competing in her heart. The elders in front of them saw that Bai Luo and the saintess had been asking them about the exit, and then they looked at each other, but in the end one of them stood up and said to Bai Luo and the others, "It's really not that we don't want to help you. We don't know where the exit is, and we don't know that there is such a place as an exit in this place. In our memory, we have always stayed here and have never been to other places, so we really can't provide you with any help. If we knew, we would have told you a long time ago." Bai Luo also felt a little strange after hearing the answers of the elders in front of him, because some of them couldn't figure it out. Stay here all the time. Didn't you go around to see the situation? After hearing Bai Luo's words, the old man hesitated for a moment and finally shook his head. I don't know. Anyway, we have been staying in this space all the time. We can't get out at all, and there is no meaning to go out. That was very strange, and Bai Luo didn't know what to say for a while. The saintess on the other side also heard their conversation, and then the saintess seemed to have thought of something, and then she asked directly, "Then I wonder what your identities are, seniors, because I felt very familiar when I saw you for the first time, but I just can't remember. However, I think you seniors must have some connection with the place I came from, so can you please tell me your names?" The saint did not think that her question was embarrassing them. She didn't expect that they were listening. After she finished speaking, she fell into a deep silence. Then they looked at each other in confusion. But in the end, it seemed that they still didn't come up with any answer. They just looked at the saint in front of them in confusion, and then said to the saint, "We don't remember this either. Anyway, in our memory, we have been staying here since we became conscious, and we can't remember the past, so we don't know a lot of things." Bai Luo and the saint looked at each other after hearing the answer of the old man in front of them, and didn't know how to react for a while. Chapter 417. Can't just sit back and do nothing. Because the saint and Bai Luo did not expect to hear such an answer. Although these words did sound a bit ridiculous to Bai Luo and the saint, Bai Luo did not know why he had a hunch that these people did not lie to him at all. So Bai Luo did not doubt the answers these people told him. On the other side, the saint was also digesting the answers given to her by these people. So Bai Luo nodded and then said to the old man in front of him, "In that case, we will leave first. After all, we still need to find another exit, so we can't accompany you first." Although the saint still had many doubts in her heart, it was really useless to stay here now. So the saint planned to follow Bai Luo. When the old men saw the situation in front of them, they quickly called Bai Luo and the others. "You two young people, don't be so anxious. Although we can't provide you with any information, I still want to know what the outside world is like. Although our memories of some things in the past are very vague, I don't know why, I always feel that some scenes are slowly passing through my mind. Now I'm very eager to know what the outside world is like. I wonder if you two young people can reveal some information to us." Bai Luo looked at the sincere eyes of the old man in front of him. Although their time was very tight, Bai Luo still couldn't bear to refuse them. So Bai Luo thought about it for a while, and then answered them very carefully and sincerely. Don't worry, seniors. In fact, I can't explain many things outside clearly. After all, after so many years, the changes in the world are still very unexpected, but I can tell you very directly that, although the forces in various places are rising now, the world is still dominated by the Holy Land. After hearing Bai Luo's words, these old men couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and it can be seen that they were very nervous about what Bai Luo said. Presumably, they have heard the answer they want now, so the expressions on their faces look a lot more relaxed. On the other side, the Saintess had some other suspicions after seeing the expressions on the faces of these old men. In fact, at the beginning, the Saintess felt that these old men must have a relationship with the Holy Land. After listening to the conversation between Bai Luo and these people just now, the Saintess was more certain of this guess, and the direction in her heart was clearer. Just when several people had their own ideas in their hearts, the faces of the old men in front of them suddenly changed greatly. The atmosphere that was very leisurely just now suddenly became tense. The old man standing in the front also said to the Saintess and Bai Luo in front of him with a very panicked look, "Hide quickly, hurry up." Although the Saintess and Bai Luo did not react for a while, when they saw the old man in front of them so nervous, they quickly hid in the bushes before they came. The Saintess and Bai Luo hid behind. Then they watched very nervously what would happen in front of them. Sure enough, after the Saint and Bai Luo had just hidden, a group of old men in purple clothes walked towards the pavilion in a menacing manner. After seeing this, the Saint could not help but look at Bai Luo who was standing by. What is going on? Who are those people? Bai Luo shook his head. But in fact, Bai Luo now had some guesses. Anyway, they must be here with bad intentions. From such a distance, you can see that they are emitting black air. Those old men in purple clothes are definitely not easy to deal with. After hearing Bai Luo's words, the Saint was a little panicked. In fact, after talking to those old men just now, the Saint was sure that those old men just now must have a relationship with the Holy Land. And the Saint could probably guess some of the origins. Although she didn't know the identities of those old men just now, there were some things that could be confirmed. Because the distance was a little far, Bai Luo couldn't hear clearly what they were talking about. Who knew that before a while, they started fighting. In fact, Bai Luo could see from what they were saying that those seniors were definitely stronger than those purple-clothed old men. But because those purple-clothed old men still had some advantages in numbers, the seniors were no match for them. They soon fell behind. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. The Saint on the side was also a little anxious, and then she said directly to Bai Luo on the side, "I didn't expect these purple-clothed old men to be so strong. Although they look so now, they must have been top-level masters on the continent when they were alive." Bai Luo was stunned for a moment after hearing the Saint's explanation. In fact, he had just guessed some of the identities of these old men. But because he had never had the opportunity to talk to the Saint, he had not spoken. Unexpectedly, the Saint had already thought of the same thing as him. After all, the seniors had already said that their effusions had a lot of damage, so they couldn't even remember their own names until now. It should be regarded as a trace of consciousness left here by the ancient strong. Although many characteristics have been preserved, the memory will always be damaged. I think the one who is looking for trouble with the senior now should be in the same situation. So Bai Luo nodded, and then said to the Saint beside him anxiously, "In fact, those seniors are not weaker than those purple-clothed old men, but there are more of them. There is no other way now. We can only take action. Otherwise I feel that the situation will be very bad." Bai Luo naturally noticed the situation on the field. Those purple-clothed old men had no intention of letting the seniors go. Bai Luo was also worried that those purple-clothed old men would do something out of the ordinary, so Bai Luo couldn't sit still in the end. After listening to Bai Luo's words, the Saint beside him nodded quickly. Although the Saint knew that the current situation was not very good, she was also very clear that, even if she took action, she might not be able to deal with those purple-clothed old men. But the Saint still couldn't sit still. who knew that the fight over there was getting more and more intense, and the saint really couldn't bear it anymore. And then someone else took his sword and rushed over directly. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo, who was standing by, also ran out. Chapter 418, recalling the past. In fact, when they were fighting just now, the saint had been observing the strength of these people. In fact, after watching for a long time, the saint found that the strength of these people should not be above her own. The saint was not ignorant of the sky and the earth and thought that she could be much stronger than these ancient strongmen, but she guessed that the strength of these ancient strongmen would be greatly reduced after they passed away. But she didn't expect that her guess was wrong. Their strength was indeed weakened, but it was not because of life and death. It was because in this underground space, even their own skills were reduced. When she wanted to use her internal force to swing the sword, she found that her internal force was less than 1/10 of her outside. When she realized this, the saint couldn't stop, so she could only bite the bullet. The other purple-clothed old men naturally noticed the situation on the saint's side, and then turned around to deal with the saint. The saint also rushed over directly, but unexpectedly, they blocked her attack directly. The sword she just used was like a group of cotton, hitting them softly. After seeing this, the saint looked at her hands in disbelief. The other seniors did not expect the saint to appear at this time, and then looked at the saint with some annoyance. You shouldn't have appeared at this time, you should have run earlier. The saint looked at the seniors who felt guilty, and then they shook their heads. Don't worry ahead, we will do our best to save you. It won't be like this, you stay here. After listening to the saint's words, the seniors sighed helplessly. In fact, after death, they didn't care about these things at all. It's nothing more than dying a second time. But the saint is different. They also know very well how terrible those purple-clothed old men are. But now the situation has become like this. The purple-clothed old men on the other side naturally noticed the saint who ran out at this time, and they obviously didn't realize that there would be another person. But at the beginning, those seniors could find that the saint had a relationship with the Holy Land, so it was also very simple for these purple-clothed old men to notice the connection between the saint and the Holy Land. So the saint also heard their conversation. This person seems to be related to the Holy Land. I didn't expect to get such a big bargain at this time. This person actually appeared in front of us. It just so happens that there is a buy one get one free offer today. Let's do it directly. It's just right to kill them right here. After listening to these conversations, the saint couldn't help but tighten the sword in her hand. Then those people were also targets, and they rushed towards the saint with their weapons very clearly. The saint didn't think much, and then rushed over with her sword. On the other side, Bai Luo naturally noticed the situation here, and it can be seen that the saint is not a match for those people now. Although Bai Luo is also very clear about his own strength, at this moment Bai Luo still chose to rush over. In fact, Bai Luo was very unsure at the moment of his shot, but for some reason, a very powerful force always surged into his body. This force spread all over his body. Then the purple-clothed old men around were directly opened by Bai Luo's power. Bai Luo did not expect such a result, but before Bai Luo could react, the purple-clothed elders who had just appeared in front of them suddenly disappeared. Then Bai Luo quickly looked around and found that these people had indeed disappeared. But Bai Luo was still a little unbelievable. He looked at his hands and felt that what had just happened was too strange. The power was also unclear. Bai Luo did not know where the power came from, but Bai Luo did not see other people around. What was going on? Was there someone helping him behind his back? Just when he was still thinking about this matter, several other seniors suddenly appeared beside him. In fact, the seniors just now were also very nervous, because in that situation, they did not know how to protect the saint. It just so happened that Bai Luo appeared at this time. They had never thought that Bai Luo's strength was so strong before. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Although they could not see Bai Luo's strength at all before, they were still very shocked after seeing Bai Luo's performance at that moment. One of the old men also directly expressed his gratitude to Bai Luo in front of him. Thank you very much, young master, for this time. If it weren't for you, we don't know how to deal with these people later. After listening to these people's words, Bai Luo also waved his hand quickly. But he couldn't say anything nice afterwards. Because he was still wondering how the power just now came, and he didn't know if there was really someone helping him behind the scenes. So Bai Luo's eyes were always glancing around. On the other side, the saint girl saw that those people were finally driven away, but the one just now was actually very shocked in her heart. She didn't think that Bai Luo could drive those people away directly. Although the saint girl was also very shocked in her heart, she also knew that now was not the time to entangle this matter. So the saint girl directly said to the old man in front of her, "Senior, do you know what the origins of those purple clothed old men just now are? Why did they kill you? Why did they come to trouble you?" After listening to the saint girl's words, these old men also shook their heads very confusedly. They didn't know why those people wanted to attack them, but they just sensed a very evil aura approaching them. That's why they asked the saint to hide in advance. After listening to the answers of these seniors, the saint did not intend to embarrass them. But now the saint and Bai Luo did not plan to stay here for too long, because they had to find a way out quickly, otherwise they would be trapped here forever. They had more important things to do. But this time, the old men did not keep them, but said goodbye to them directly. Just after they separated from Bai Luo and the others, some fragments flashed through the minds of these old men. Maybe it was because of the turmoil, just now that they remembered some memories of the past. The Three Saints of Hunyuan? Is this their previous title? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419, Finding the Exit. The Three Saints of Hunyuan. The three strongest men in the Holy Land at that time were famous for their strength, but the Holy Land was not the strongest force on the continent at that time, and the three of them were not considered top-notch strong men. After thinking about this, the three old men looked at each other and then laughed. Although a lot of things happened just now, they still remembered that Bai Luo told them some clues about the outside world. As long as everything is fine in the Holy Land. On the other side, Bai Luo and the saint were still looking for the exit. But there was no progress. Then Bai Luo, who was walking in front, couldn't help but stop and observe the surrounding situation. Are we going to keep going around like this now? I feel like we don't have any accurate direction, so we keep going around in circles. The saint nodded. She did find this problem, but there was no other way now. If there was a better plan, the saint would still be willing to comply. But there was no other way now. So the saint directly expressed her concerns. But now we have no other ideas. If we go this way, we may be able to try our luck. After saying this, the two of them fell into silence. Everyone was thinking about how to find a way out. But there was still no progress. Finally, the saint seemed to have thought of something, and then she quickly said to Bai Luo in front of her, "I think we can try to find the edge of this space, and then we can keep walking forward around this edge. I think it is possible to get out of this space." After Bai Luo heard what the saint said, he immediately felt that what the saint said was indeed possible. So Bai Luo nodded and then said, "This idea is indeed good. In this case, let's quickly find the edge of this space. It is possible that we can really get out." After the two confirmed this method, they immediately determined a direction, and then quickly found the edge of this space. Then the two kept walking forward. However, what Bai Luo did not expect was that they found many overlapping scenes as they walked. It seemed that they were still repeating the path they had taken before. Bai Luo could not help but doubt the feasibility of this method. But there was no other way. Finally, the saint could not help but speak. "What should we do now? I feel that our method does not seem to work. I seem to have seen this scene not long ago. It is impossible that we are just going around in circles here. It seems that we have made some progress, but in fact, we have been standing still." After listening to the saint's words, Bai Luo could not help but frown. But there is no other way now. Bai Luo naturally realized this, and found that they seemed to have been standing still. But in the end, he still said helplessly, Then there is no other way now. We can't go back, so let's go a little bit. If this method doesn't work, we will think of another way. The two were helpless and could only move forward. But just when the two thought that this method didn't work, they suddenly crossed a barrier and then their bodies felt very serious weightlessness. Then they walked out of that space directly. This was a situation that Bai Luo and the Saint had never expected. They didn't know that they could walk out so easily. There was no sign at all. It turns out that the exit is at the edge of those spaces. No wonder they have never found it, and the exit is very inconspicuous. After realizing this, the Saint could not help but laugh. I didn't expect this method to work. This is really great. We finally got out. Bai Luo nodded and then found that the space they had been trapped in was just a small magic weapon. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Bai Luo picked up the magic weapon they had just escaped from in disbelief and then took it in his hand to look at it. Then he said to the Saint beside him, "It turns out that we have been wandering around in this magic weapon just now, and we didn't expect to waste so much time." The Saint also found it incredible. After that, the two looked at the surrounding situation again and found that there was more than one such magic weapon. There were more than a dozen such magic weapons around. Bai Luo found another magic weapon on the ground on the other side. In fact, Bai Luo had observed it for a while, and he found that these magic weapons were in a certain state of damage. Bai Luo then shared his findings with the Saint. "Have you noticed that most of these magic weapons are actually in a completely damaged state, and they seem to have been severely damaged?" The Saint nodded, and she naturally noticed the situation here. Then the Saint squatted down and picked up a fragment on the ground. Then she turned around and said to Bai Luo beside her, "The old men just now should have been strong men during the Demon Saint War. Before they died, their thoughts remained in the magic weapons, so they can't remember many memories clearly, and their previous memories are also incomplete. Their disabled people are just trapped inside, and these broken magic weapons scattered on the ground may be the magic weapons they used when they were in the mountains." Bai Luo couldn't help but be stunned after listening to the Saint's explanation, but he quickly digested the information provided by the Saint. If it is really like this, then everything makes sense. I don't know what stimulated the Thousand Faces Saint to remember the identities of the old men she saw just now, but she just felt very familiar. Now that she came out, the Saint suddenly recalled some things she had learned before. Then she couldn't help but exclaimed, "I guess I might know the identities of those old men just now. In fact, I should know, but I don't know why I couldn't remember it in there. After I came out, I felt that my memory was much clearer." Bai Luo didn't interrupt the Saint. Then the Saint continued, "If I remember correctly, those three old men should be the three saints of Union. Their portraits are still displayed in our temple. I have seen them countless times, but I don't know why I couldn't remember them in there. I didn't expect to see them here." The expression on the Saint's face was full of such an incredible feeling. Chapter 420, Disagreement. Bai Luo couldn't help but fall into deep thought after hearing what the Saint said. Although he didn't know the three saints of Union very well, from what the Saint said, the old men should be very powerful. We just saw them in the space inside this magic weapon, so they should be trapped in this magic weapon. The Saint pursed her lips, then nodded, and then said to Bai Luo beside her, "I also think this matter is very strange. After all, the three saints of Union were gone during the War of Magic Beasts. At that time, all those who participated in the War of Magic Saints had been annihilated, but what I didn't expect was that I actually saw them again in this magic weapon. Although they are not alive now, it is very likely that there is a little consciousness left in it." After the Saint said this, she looked at the magic weapon on the ground and revealed some very subtle expressions. In fact, the Saint still respected them very much. Now she knew that they were trapped inside, and their situation was not very good. After all, the Saint saw with her own eyes that, although the environment inside was good, there were indeed some people with bad intentions inside. Then the Saint was also tangled for a while. Bai Luo, who was standing by, naturally noticed the expression on the Saint's face, and then he had an ominous premonition in his heart. Sure enough, The saint spoke up the next second. No, they are heroes in our holy land. I can't just leave them here. If I didn't know, it would be fine, but now that I know about this, I must take them back. I want to go in again and bring them out. After hearing the saint's words, Bai Luo couldn't help but frown. In fact, it's not that he didn't want to bring the souls of the 3 saints of Hunyuan out, but it would definitely take a lot of time to go in, and he didn't know what the situation was inside. After all, they just came out. And now the most important thing is to quickly solve the problem of Zairotu and the others. This is what Bai Luo thinks is the top priority now. It's not that Bai Luo doesn't want to go, but Bai Luo doesn't want to waste time on this matter. They have more important things to do. This matter has been shelved here for a long time. If they continue to waste time here, Bai Luo will feel more anxious. So Bai Luo also directly expressed his thoughts. I think the most urgent thing is to deal with the thief first. We can discuss this matter later. After all, these magic tools are here, and we can still go in next time. After hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint also looked at Bai Luo, but the saint did not think so. Although the saint knew that the shadow matter needed to be dealt with as soon as possible, she also knew that it was not safe for the souls of the 3 saints of Hunyuan to be in this magic tool. Next time I deal with it, I can't be sure whether the souls of the seniors will stay there safely. You also know that when we went in just now, we encountered some arrests. Those people will not let the seniors go. I can't just leave like this. The saint's tone was very sure. Bai Luo didn't know what to say for a moment. Maybe the bond between him and the 3 saints of Hunyuan was not that strong, so he couldn't really understand the saint's feelings. So Bai Luo did not give in. You just said that the 3 saints of Hunyuan are no longer here. I think that people who have died should be allowed to rest in peace. There is no need for us to disturb them. Everyone has different experiences, so some things should be left to nature. After hearing Bai Luo's words, the expression on the face of the saint was not very good, and then she immediately refuted it. This is just your idea. You don't know the status of the 3 saints of Hunyuan in the Holy Land, and you don't understand why we respect them. Anyway, in my mind, they are heroes in the Holy Land, and I can't leave them there. Bai Luo looked at the saint in front of him and felt that the 2 of them had completely different opinions. In the end, he could only wave his hand helplessly. In that case, there is nothing to say. After all, the 2 of us have different decisions, and I can't comment on your approach. The saint on the other side naturally would not impose her ideas on Bai Luo, because she also knew that she was doing this only for the benefit of the Holy Land. So he didn't intend to force Bai Luo to go in with him. Then the saint also smiled and patted Bai Luo on the shoulder. Then you go back first. Leave the things here to me. After all, this is also our Holy Land's business. You go and deal with the problem of the little rabbit and the shadow first, and leave this matter to me. After the saint said this, she didn't waste any more time and went back into the magic weapon. Seeing the saint suddenly disappear in front of him, Bai Luo also looked at the magic weapon on the ground meaningfully. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first published this novel. But in the end, he didn't follow in. Because Bai Luo always remembered that the purpose of his visit this time was just to solve the problem of the little rabbit and the shadow. If he went in again, it would definitely waste a lot of time. Now the situation of the little rabbit is not optimistic. The problem of the shadow has not been solved, and Bai Luo has been unable to rest assured. Bai Luo hesitated for a while, then looked at the surrounding environment, and finally chose a road to continue walking forward. In fact, Bai Luo didn't know what the situation was here, so he could only walk forward by feeling. But as he walked, he felt uncomfortable, and found something wrong, because he seemed to have been taking a detour. After walking back and forth, they returned to the starting point. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo couldn't help but frown, and then continued to walk forward. Considering that the situation was a bit special, Bai Luo also left some marks on the road when he walked. Then Bai Luo came to a very unfamiliar place. But there was nothing here, and Bai Luo couldn't confirm where he was. Although Bai Luo also knew that they were very eager to know some useful information, this time Bai Luo was very clear that he was lost, so he didn't dare to continue to move forward. Looking at the unfamiliar environment around him, Bai Luo finally turned around and walked back unwillingly, because some things still have to be done within one's ability. If he really gets lost here, it is possible that the situation behind will only get worse. Bai Luo also knows that there are still many things he needs to do, and he must not be trapped here. Chapter 421, Disagreement. So Bai Luo finally chose to return by the original route. The saint on the other side has now entered the space inside the magic weapon. Because she had been here once before, the saint was somewhat familiar with the environment inside. It was exactly the same scene as the first time she came in. So the saint continued to move forward. Then, relying on some memories, she avoided many detours. Then the saint kept moving forward with a clear goal. Then, as the saint walked, she found a very unfriendly breath rushing towards her. Then, the saint quickly drew out the sword in her hand, and then looked at the surrounding environment very vigilantly. As expected by the saint, a very strong airflow surged from behind her. It happened that the saint had been prepared in advance, so she dodged the attack by turning sideways. Then, she watched a sword pass by her ear. Then, you quickly turned around, and then you saw those purple-clothed old men. Seeing this situation, the saint could not help but frown. She did not expect to see these purple-clothed old men at this time. After all, Bai Luo had already driven them away at the very beginning, but she did not expect that these purple-clothed old men would suddenly appear in front of her. These people have complete memories, which are different from the three saints of Hunyuan. The three saints of Hunyuan are prone to loss due to some reasons, but these people have complete memories, so they also remember when the saint and Bai Luo dealt with them. They also knew that the saint must have something to do with the Holy Land. So they did not expect to see the saint appear here again at this time, and then they directly took action. But they did not expect that the saint reacted quickly, so they did not have the upper hand at the first time. After the saints on the other side saw the appearance of these people clearly, their brows were still frowning. Why are they still here? Didn't they all disappear? However, the saint knew that now was not the time to doubt this matter, because she knew very well that she was not the opponent of these people in front of her. She had tried to defeat these purple-clothed old men before, because her strength was weakened after entering this space. When she took the initiative to fight with these purple-clothed old men, she found that she could not beat them at all. If Bai Luo had not helped her last time, she might not have escaped at all. But now it is different. In this environment, only she can help herself. Bai Luo did not come with her. What should I do now? However, the saint also knew that she had no other choice. In this confined space, she had no one to ask for help. So the saint silently clenched the sword in her hand, and then when those purple-clothed old men attacked her, she went straight up. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as last time. The saint was not the opponent of these people, so she was suppressed during the fight. After a few rounds, the saint couldn't help but sweat on her head, and the hand holding the sword was shaking slightly. But the saint didn't dare to relax at all, because those purple-clothed old men didn't seem to want to give her a chance to live. Every time they attacked, they were ruthless, and every move was intended to take her life. So the saint was still holding on. But after a few more rounds, the saint's physical strength gradually couldn't keep up, because those people on the opposite side were not only stronger than her, but also had a great advantage in numbers. So the saint was still knocked down. Although she was still a little unwilling, when she saw those purple-clothed old men walking towards her step by step, the saint couldn't help but close her eyes. Just when the saint thought she couldn't escape at all, a figure appeared in front of her. Unexpectedly, the three saints of Hunyuan appeared in front of her at this time. The saint couldn't help but widen her eyes. But the saint couldn't be happy at all, because in the saint's impression, the current strength of the three saints of Hunyuan seemed to be no better than these purple-clothed old men. Before the saint thought about it, one of the old men came over and helped the saint who was beaten to the ground. After seeing this situation, the saint said to the old men in front of her anxiously, "Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Run." We are not their opponents now. Don't let me get you into trouble." The three saints of Hunyuan just smiled very calmly after hearing the words of the saint, and then waved their hands casually. "You are quite kind little girl, but you have already left in front. Why are you running back now?" The tone of the three saints of Hunyuan was very cheerful, but the saint was not happy at all, because the saint also knew that the current situation was not optimistic. Then one of the old men continued, "You don't have to worry too much. Although we couldn't deal with these people before, it's different now. After some previous experiences, we have also recovered some memories and carried out some things about the past, so our magic power has also been restored. It is more than enough to deal with these people." After listening to the explanation of the three saints of Hunyuan, the saint looked at the situation over there with some worry. As expected, the fight broke out again. The elder who was chatting with me just now also joined in. In fact, the saint girl was still a little unsure. After all, she was very clear about the strength of those purple-clothed old men. But the other saint girl was surprised that these three saints of Hunyuan had not lied to her at all. As expected, their strength had recovered to a certain extent, so when dealing with those purple-clothed old men, they did not feel very strenuous at all. Compared with the situation last time, the three saints of Hunyuan seemed to be more than enough. In fact, when the purple-clothed old men in front saw the three saints of Hunyuan, they had no intention of retreating at all. After all, in their impression, these three saints of Hunyuan could not deal with them. But I didn't expect that the strength of the three saints of Hunyuan had actually increased. The purple-clothed old men now were no match for the three saints of Hunyuan. After realizing this, these purple-clothed old men then looked at each other and then retreated tacitly. However, the three saints of Hunyuan did not intend to let them go just like that. They quickly moved to the purple-clothed old men who wanted to escape, and then a huge force directly pinched these purple-clothed old men. Chapter 422, Meeting Again. In that instant, these purple-clothed old men were suddenly torn to pieces in front of the saint. They disappeared in front of her without leaving any trace. After seeing this, the saint was shocked by the scene in front of her. She was speechless for a moment. She didn't expect that the power of the three saints of Hunyuan would be so strong after recovering. Finally, the saint ran to the three saints of Hunyuan in front of her and wanted to discuss something with them. But before the saint spoke, an old man spoke first. "We spent a lot of effort to deal with them just now. We also realized some of the rules here. Our power has been almost consumed, so some of our memories of the past will also dissipate." When they said this, they shook their heads in pain. When they opened their eyes again, they looked at the saint beside them in confusion. The saint had not yet fully digested the information given to her by the three saints of Hunyuan, and she didn't expect to face such a situation directly. Then the three saints of Hunyuan who had lost their memories asked some questions similar to the last time, and the saint girl answered them one by one, but some things were just not clear. However, the saint girl was not in a hurry. Looking at the kind faces of the three saints of Hunyuan, the saint girl also swore silently in her heart that she must take them out. These are the heroes of the Holy Land. The saint girl must not just sit back and leave them here. So the saint girl also looked at the three saints of Hunyuan in front of her very firmly and finally said with a solemn oath, "Seniors, don't worry, I will definitely ask you to take you out, and I will definitely not leave you here. I will take you back to the Holy Land and let everyone see our heroes." Although the three saints of Hunyuan were still confused after hearing the saint girl's words, because they could no longer remember what happened before, as long as they heard the word body, the expressions on the faces of the old men were still very kind. On the other side, Bai Luo had returned to the place where he had just started, which was next to those abandoned magic tools. Bai Luo hesitated again and finally chose to enter the space inside the magic tool again. Because now he had no way to find any clues about the little rabbit in the shadow. In addition, Bai Luo was still a little worried about the safety of the saint, so Bai Luo finally decided to go in again to look for the saint. But Bai Luo had been here once before, so he was relatively familiar with the environment inside. Then Bai Luo continued to walk forward. Bai Luo walked for a while, but did not see any trace of the saint. So walking on the road was a bit boring. Then Bai Luo spoke directly to the system in his body. "I have been here for a while, and I have almost finished the task. How long will it take for me to go back and continue to watch my internet cafe? The system did not answer Bai Luo. Seeing that the system ignored Bai Luo, he continued to ask, "Don't think that I don't know that you don't want to answer me just because you don't speak. Get out of here quickly." Finally, the voice of the system slowly echoed in Bai Luo's mind. "Don't worry about this. As long as you complete the goal we set for you, you can definitely go back to your internet cafe. We will definitely do what we say." In the end, Bai Luo walked a distance, but still did not see the figure of the saint. Bai Luo was also a little anxious, and then he continued to speak directly to the system in his body. "System, you said you are so powerful. Can you tell me where the saint is now? I have been walking here for half a day, and I haven't seen her trace." This time the system answered very quickly. "Of course I can tell you, but every time I help you complete a task, you must consume a lot of savings, and these savings will be deducted from your real life." After listening to the system's words, Bai Luo also shook his head quickly. Then he didn't think about finding the saint through the system. After all, he didn't have so much savings to spend, so Bai Luo also knew very well that he had to rely on himself to accomplish some things. So Bai Luo continued to walk forward. Finally, he didn't forget to complain about the system. "As expected, you are a black-hearted merchant. You didn't help me with anything, but you want to ask me for money. I will not let you succeed. Anyway, I will do it myself. I have been here once. I don't believe that I can't find the saint." Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar published this novel. Then the system ignored Bai Luo. When Bai Luo continued to walk forward, he found a strange breath following him. However, Bai Luo did not choose to do it himself, but continued to walk forward. However, Bai Luo has been paying attention to the situation behind him. Then those people behind him finally couldn't help but think, and then they wanted to attack Bai Luo directly from behind. But Bai Luo had already prepared in advance, so when those people attacked him, Bai Luo easily avoided their attacks. Then Bai Luo also saw the appearance of those people behind him clearly. It turned out to be those purple-clothed old men again. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned. Bai Luo then summoned his own magic weapon, and then observed the actions of the purple-clothed old men in front of him to see what they were going to do next. Who knew that these people had no intention of continuing to attack? Then an old man in purple stood up and said to Bai Luo in front of him, "Don't worry, we don't have any bad intentions. We just come to discuss some things with you." In fact, they followed Bai Luo. When they came in, they naturally remembered that Bai Luo was fighting with the same girl at the beginning. But now seeing Bai Luo acting alone, and these people also knew that Bai Luo's strength did not look that simple. They suffered a loss from Bai Luo last time, so they did not intend to fight Bai Luo head on. Then the purple-clothed old man continued, "I think this young man is still very righteous. This time we came here to ask you for help. I know that you and those people are not the same kind of people, so I hope you can choose the side of justice and choose to help us." After hearing what this person said, Bai Luo frowned in confusion. Although Bai Luo did not think that he was very strong, he still believed that he had some brains. He did not understand how these people in front of him had the courage to say these words. Chapter 423, Emergency. So Bai Luo couldn't help but chuckle, but he didn't expose the people in front of him immediately. Instead, he continued to talk along with their words. "So what you mean is that you are good people, and those people I met before are people with bad intentions?" In fact, when Bai Luo said this, he couldn't help but despise the people in front of him. "I always feel that these people's words are simply insulting my IQ. But I didn't expect that the purple-clothed old man in front of him would continue to explain. Of course, those people have done all kinds of bad things. We have been fighting them here for a long time, but we haven't made any substantial progress. So we really need your help. If this young man is willing to help us, we will naturally be grateful." Bai Luo didn't intend to continue to play along with them. Although he and the saint did have some conflicts of opinion before, they are still friends after all. and Bai Luo naturally knew that the people in front of him were definitely not good people, and he also knew why these people wanted to deceive him. So Bai Luo laughed after he died, and then he looked at the purple clothed old men in front of him very cruelly. Then he said very coldly, "What you said is really ridiculous. Do you really think my brain is a decoration? You have the nerve to say that you are a good person. Don't think I don't know what your intention is. But since you took the initiative to appear in front of me, don't blame me for being rude." When Bai Luo said these words, he was already accumulating strength in his hands. After saying this, Bai Luo also released all his strength without any concealment. Then the surrounding aura also fluctuated. In just a moment, the purple clothed old men in front of him disappeared. Just when Bai Luo thought that the matter here had been resolved, he continued to move forward. But what Bai Luo didn't expect was that there were some fluctuations in this world suddenly. The surrounding aura was a little unstable. Bai Luo didn't expect such a situation to happen suddenly, and then he quickly raised his footsteps and finally observed the surrounding environment. Then the fluctuation became more and more obvious. Could it be that his actions just now turned on some switches in this space? That's why the current situation happened. Then Bai Luo closed his eyes directly, and then Bai Luo could also feel that the spiritual energy fluctuations around him were very violent. What's going on? How could such a situation suddenly occur? If it was really what I did just now that caused such a fluctuation, it would be very strange. For such a situation to occur, the spiritual energy here must be very abundant. But Bai Luo did not find such a problem when he came in just now. However, it has not reached the point of no return for Bai Luo, and he does not feel that he cannot bear this power. But Bai Luo does not want this power to affect other people. On the other side, the saint was talking to the three saints of Hunyuan about some of their past experiences. The three saints of Hunyuan were also very happy to talk to the saint about some of their past experiences. Although their memories were damaged, some things could still be remembered. So the saint kept talking to the three saints of Hunyuan. But what they did not expect was that suddenly a very strong spiritual power rushed over here. The saint had no time to react and was then directly knocked down by the spiritual power. Then the saint also fainted on the ground. The three saints of Hunyuan on the other side were not affected by this. After seeing this, they quickly helped the saint girl who fell to the ground. In fact, when the power rushed over just now, the strength of the three saints of Hunyuan recovered a lot. In fact, Bai Luo's guess just now was almost half right. Although Bai Luo did not find that the spiritual power here was so abundant when he came in just now, it was actually because these ages were some of the spiritual power left by the three saints of Hunyuan during their lifetime, which was left in this magic weapon. What Bai Luo did just now was also accidentally implemented. The spiritual power just now has slowly recovered into the bodies of the three saints of Hunyuan. Their strength has become much stronger. Because the magic power of the three saints of Hunyuan is closely related to their own memory, the memory of the three saints of Hunyuan is also slowly recovering. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first published this novel. As their own mana recovered, the three saints of Hunyuan could also clearly sense Bai Luo's presence, because Bai Luo's aura was very overbearing, and the three saints of Hunyuan could already sense the presence of that overbearing aura through the air. Then they looked at each other, and then flew directly in the direction of Bai Luo. Not long after, they saw Bai Luo standing there in a daze. On the other side, Bai Luo did not expect the three saints of Hunyuan to suddenly appear in front of him. So he hurried forward. Because Bai Luo still had a lot of things to do. After all, he didn't even see the shadow of the saint. And that thing just happened. Bai Luo was not sure whether the spiritual power that appeared just now would affect the saint. Who knew that Bai Luo hadn't spoken yet, and then an old man inside said directly to Bai Luo, "Come with me." Bai Luo naturally believed in them very much, and then followed the three saints of Hunyuan to the place where the saint fainted just now. Looking at the unconscious saint, Bai Luo also had some bad guesses in his heart. Is it really because of what he did just now that the saint was affected? So Bai Luo asked directly, "Why did the saint faint? Is it because of what happened just now?" One of the old men nodded, and then said to Bai Luo in front of him, "We probably know what happened just now. It's really not your fault. The main reason is that the spiritual power left in this hairstyle when we were alive was too chaotic, so it couldn't withstand some fluctuations from the outside world. At that time, the spiritual power suddenly burst out directly. But you don't have to worry too much. This little girl will wake up soon. Although the spiritual power is indeed very overbearing, it's just a temporary fainting. Bai Luo nodded, but he still felt a little embarrassed in his heart. After all, he could have chosen not to do this just now. In that case, let's go out quickly. It's just right to take a few seniors with us. The three saints of Hunyuan did not answer Bai Luo's question immediately, but just looked at Bai Luo in front of him very directly. Chapter 424. The more you explain, the worse it gets. Although they did not see Bai Luo's strength before, the aura just now was indeed unexpected to the three saints of Hunyuan, so they still admired Bai Luo very much. That power was indeed very rare in their eyes. After all, Bai Luo had cultivated to such a level at his age, so he was considered a genius boy. Moreover, in the eyes of the three saints of Hunyuan, Bai Luo should belong to the Holy Land, so they still valued Bai Luo very much. You are really very powerful, and you must have been taught by the Holy Land. I don't know what your plans are in the future. Although we old men are no longer in this world, there is still a trace of consciousness left here. If you have any requests, just ask. We will try our best to help you if we can. Bai Luo heard the words of the three saints of Hunyuan, and then his head was full of question marks. He didn't expect these, and the three saints of Hunyuan would actually say these words. But Bai Luo didn't need anything. You don't need them to help you. After all, your goal has never been on the road of cultivating immortals. After coming to this world, I received a series of tasks from the system. Just to complete these tasks, the final goal is to return to his own world and run his own internet cafe well. As for these things, the powerful ancient masters can't help him at all. In their hearts, cultivation is the most important thing. But this is nothing to Bai Luo. Bai Luo also knows that he can't stay in this world for a lifetime. So Bai Luo waved his hand very easily and then directly declined their help. Don't bother with this. I don't have any plans to cultivate immortals, and I don't plan to stay here forever. When I return to my own world in the future, I will run my own internet cafe well and live a happy life. After hearing Bai Luo's answer, the expressions on the faces of the three old men were also very subtle. Then the three of them looked at each other. In fact, they are not warm-hearted people. It's just that, when they saw that Bai Luo had such strong strength and talent, they really wanted to help Bai Luo, and wanted to cultivate such a genius-level person, to serve the Holy Land. In their minds, cultivation and strength are the most important things. But Bai Luo just rejected it in one breath. They had never thought of such a result. And just now Bai Luo said something, all of which was about opening an internet cafe. The three saints of Hunyuan could not understand it at all. Then an old man with a long beard stood up and said to Bai Luo in front of him with a very kind face. You are a talented young man, and now you are so powerful, you should not be so short-sighted. You know that the world is not peaceful now, so young people, like you are very needed to stand up, instead of just thinking about living an ordinary life like now. If you do this, you will just be disillusioned with the world and waste the rest of your life in vain. There is no value at all. Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned after hearing such words in front of him. He didn't expect that after he came to this world, he would be preached by others. He is really not a great saint, so he has never thought of such a great goal. It was before, and it is still now. Bai Luo now just wants to go back and run his internet cafe well. He doesn't want to care about anything else. Bai Luo didn't want to continue this topic with them, so he changed the subject directly. Don't bother with this. Let's talk about this later. The most urgent thing now is to get out quickly. After all, the saint just came in just to take you out. Let's not waste time here. But the three Hunyuan saints in front of them didn't buy Bai Luo's words at all. They still thought that Bai Luo had seen through the world and planned to waste his future life. They really couldn't bear to see this happen, so they couldn't help but continue. The world is not peaceful now. If you have such ability, you must shoulder some responsibilities. We were like this before. Although we were indeed annihilated in the end, we never regretted it, because we knew that someone had to stand up. You are really powerful, so we also hope that you can care about the world and not be too short-sighted. After hearing this, Bai Luo couldn't help but roll his eyes. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR is the first to publish this novel. In fact, Bai Luo naturally knew that there was nothing wrong with these words, and he also knew that there would always be some people who had to stand up when facing danger. But Bai Luo didn't think he had such strength. After all, he couldn't even run an internet cafe in his own world before, so how could he save the world? So Bai Luo felt that this topic was very far away from him. He also felt that it was very unnecessary. So Bai Luo continued to wave his hands, and then his voice couldn't help but rise a little. Don't tell me about this matter. Anyway, I'm just this kind of person. I never think that I'm a very powerful person, nor do I think I have the ability to save the people. If you still think about such things, you can go to someone else. If you find me, you really found the wrong person. I'm just a poor loser. The final goal is just to go back and run my own internet cafe. I don't want to care about other things. This time I came here just to take you out, so I helped you little by chance. Don't embarrass me for some things. It's useless to tell me. Bai Luo's words now are very clear, and there is no intention to back down at all. The expressions on the faces of the three saints of Hunyuan were also somewhat awkward. For a moment, no one continued to speak. The atmosphere became very depressing, and Bai Luo did not want to take the initiative to bring up the topic. He hated it most when others talked to him about great principles and righteousness, because Bai Luo was very clear about his own strength. He did not think that he could turn things around after coming to another world. He could not be a hero with righteousness. So Bai Luo still felt very pressured after hearing the labels these people put on him. He did not like the feeling of being restrained. So this also made Bai Luo feel offended. The expression on Bai Luo's face was not good, but he still looked at the three saints of Hunyuan in front of him very calmly. The three saints of Hunyuan on the other side seemed to have discovered that they were indeed in charge of too many things, and they were indeed used to this feeling. Chapter 425. Unbelievable. After half an incense stick, Bai Luo was too lazy to argue with these three people. After all, they all had different values. The three of them wanted to save the world, but he was different. He just wanted to quickly return to his own world and run his own internet cafe well. So Bai Luo didn't want to argue with them later, just waved his hand helplessly, and then quickly changed the subject. I know this, but why is the saint not awake yet? Is it because the injury just now was too serious? Bai Luo's move was quite good, because the three saints of Hunyuan still attached great importance to the saint. After all, the saint is from the Holy Land, and is also the heir of their Holy Land, so they are still very worried about the safety of the saint. The eldest of them also squatted down and carefully checked the situation of the saint, and then silently recited a few spells. Bai Luo on the other side saw this situation, and couldn't help but frowned, a little confused. The old man on the other side also explained directly to Bai Luo, you don't have to worry about this. The saint should not have suffered any serious injuries. Just now, the spiritual power fluctuated too much. The saint did not react for a while, so she was not prepared to resist. In addition, her own spiritual power was a little unstable, so she fainted. I have just given her a little more spiritual power. I believe she will wake up soon, so you don't have to worry too much. Sure enough, what the old man said was indeed correct. After the three saints of Hunyuan passed the spiritual power to her, the saint opened her eyes not long after. Then the saint also saw Bai Luo who was beside her. Because she didn't know that Bai Luo had come in before she fainted, she thought Bai Luo had left. After all, the two people disagreed before, so they acted separately. So the saint was stunned when she saw Bai Luo, and then someone said directly to Bai Luo in front of her, why did you come here? Did you enter this magic weapon again? Bai Luo sighed. Although he did have some disagreements with the saint before, Bai Luo didn't think it was a big deal. So he answered truthfully, I just took a random road and walked forward, but I found that the world outside is actually quite complicated. I couldn't figure out the route, so I walked around for a few times, but still got lost. In the end, I had to go back the same way, so now I came to this magic weapon to find you. Hearing Bai Luo's answer, the saint couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. After all, Bai Luo didn't choose her, but made a helpless choice after he couldn't get out. Then the heroine was afraid that her emotions would be seen by Bai Luo in front of her, so she quickly changed the subject. What happened just now? I don't know why I suddenly fainted, but now it seems that nothing happened, because the saint's fainting just now was indeed closely related to him. The male supporting role also touched his head a little embarrassedly, and then explained to the saint in front of him. This is indeed my fault. I used my own power in this illusion, and then there was a fluctuation of spiritual power, so such a big situation occurred. However, it just so happened that these elders gave you some extra spiritual power just now, so you can recover so quickly. After hearing Bai Luo's words, the saint turned around and looked at the three saints of Hunyuan in front of her. Because the saint can now fully confirm the identity of the three saints of Hunyuan in front of her, she now respects them even more. Although the saint has always been a little proud, she is still very respectful to these elders, and then she said respectfully to the three saints of Hunyuan in front of her, "Thank you for your help this time. It is because I'm too incompetent that I have dragged down all the elders." The three saints of Hunyuan naturally like the saint very much. After all, she is the heir of the Holy Land. She is also their junior. So when these people were also happy, the old man with a long beard inside also stood up directly. Then he saw Bai Luo on the side. Bai Luo was stunned by their looks and felt that something bad was going to happen. As expected, the man spoke directly. Although your strength is not the best now, you are still very good, and you have good taste. This partner is really good looking. Although sometimes it is a bit unreasonable, the strength is still very strong. As expected, no one from a holy land is weak. Hearing the word partner, the saint blushed. Although she knew that this was just a misunderstanding of the predecessors, every time she heard these two words, the saint's heart still trembled for them. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel. Then the saint glanced at Bai Luo on the side, wanting to see what expression Bai Luo had on his face. Bai Luo was stunned for a moment, and then he didn't react. After that, the expressions on the faces of the three saints of Hunyuan suddenly became serious, and then someone said, "I didn't expect them to show up at this time. We can settle the score." Bai Luo on the other side was stunned for a moment when he heard them say this, and then he asked directly, "What's going on? Did something happen again?" An elder nodded, and then said to Bai Luo in front of him, "Indeed, didn't you say that you also met those purple-clothed old men when you came here just now? I didn't expect them to show up again at this time. Now our memories have been restored a little, and we naturally know what kind of people they are. Since they can be dispersed, but not destroyed every time, we also want to solve them directly, otherwise the trouble will definitely come again." After hearing the elder's words, Bai Luo couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. After all, Bai Luo actually thought that those purple-clothed old men should have been dispersed by him just now. I didn't expect these people to be so lingering that they actually appeared again at this time. Then Bai Luo wanted to say something more, but who knew that the three saints of Hunyuan in front of him suddenly disappeared. The speed of movement was really fast. After the spiritual power fluctuations, the strength of these people was still very strong. Bai Luo couldn't keep up with them. The saint girl on the other side was still worried about the safety of the three saints of Hunyuan, so she kept looking over there. However, Bai Luo was more open-minded. After all, Bai Luo still believed in the strength of the three old men. Don't worry too much about this. The three old men should be more than enough to deal with those purple-clothed old men. Don't worry too much. It will be over soon. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.